Chapter 51, Edward's Belt. Lord Woomians, please lend me some money. As long as you are willing to lend me money, I am willing to do anything. The young lady's face is blushing furiously red while her eyes are full of tears and desire. I am a little dumbfounded. Just when I was about to head out, Victoria pulls onto my robe, refusing to let go whatsoever, saying that she wants to borrow money from me to buy some belt. Lord, we just got information that there will be a unique item for the auction this time called Edward's Belt. If possible, I would also like to request this of you. For this, you can deduct my wages. I am still young and I can still work another 200 years under you. Diana, who had been avoiding me recently, bucks up her courage and tries to request for financial support from me for the happiness of her brother. She was even willing to sign a servant contract for a few hundred years for it. When Elisa removed dozens of curses from Victoria's body, including a shaman's dark arts in the mix, Victoria lived with her sister. However, perhaps due to listening to many rumors about me, she was a little frightened of me and always stayed out of my path. Even if we meet by the hallways, she would tiptoe away, as though I was carnivorous. Lord, if only you are willing to buy that belt for me, I am willing to give everything up and use my technique I used on serving my father to please you. I know that you like boys. Last time, you rejected my service because of that. But, you should be happy since I have a chance to turn back into a male, right? I will make you happy. Victoria. Her sister Diana stares in shock at her little sister. She didn't expect that concealed under Victoria's cheerful look normally is such pain and sorrow. For the opportunity to turn back into a male, she is willing to sacrifice so much. Big sister, say no more. There is only one Edward's Belt in the world. If I were to miss this opportunity, I will have to live on as a woman for the rest of my life. As long as I can turn back, it's not a big deal having to sacrifice my physical body to serve the demons. The female elf's face shows her determination. For her goal, she is willing to even sacrifice her body to serve the demon. This reminds me of some heroic revolutionaries. Cough. Then, as a demon, with an emphasis on the word, can you tell what happened? The two elves were trembling in fear. Under my pressure, they quickly explained the case to me. Edward's Belt, also known as the Belt of Edwina, is an epic class unique item that is cursed. Its only use is that it is able to completely change the user's sex. Furthermore, when equipped, it cannot be removed by the user for the rest of his life. Due to its bizarre effects, all of the people who accidentally put it on will not reveal it, otherwise being laughed at by other people is still a small matter. If someone were to hunt you down and kill you for the item, that would be too much of a tragedy. This time, in order to protect his dignity as an underground city lord, the old lion used the entirety of his influence to look for precious treasures that can help to build up the momentum for Eternal Night Scepter during the auction. A certain subordinate underground city lord of the Lion King who has unique tastes killed the love of his love to hand over this belt of Edwina over to him. There is no such thing as a true secret in this world. The news that the belt is to be auctioned has been long revealed. To normal people, this precious treasure could be their worst nightmare, but to Victoria, it is her only straw of hope. Lord, I am begging you. I've had enough of the empty feeling below when I wake up. Also, the eyes that those guys look at me with seem like they will gobble me up in one mouthful. This is too hard to bear. Whenever I think of it, my goosebumps start rising up. Also, the day which comes once a month, to a man, is no different from a living nightmare. Looking for this lady who is sobbing pitifully while crying about the nightmares of a male, I somehow felt that it was a little amusing. In this moment, for the sake of Woomians' image, I can only try to best to suppress my laughter so as to not be disrespectful. But, I suddenly remember the words she just said. Wait, you mean that the reason why I rejected you last time is because your physical body is a female? You even said that you would be willing to serve me when you turn back into a male? That is to say, you think that I'm gay. There's no man who can pretend that they didn't hear such a rumor about themselves. Thus, my blood boils and I immediately question her. Who said it? Who fabricated these rumors? I will make them suffer. But, all of the big sisters in the team said so. Isn't your lover City Lord Adam? Besides, the reason why the both of you haven't married for more than a century is because you both have each other. Although I'm still young so I don't really understand, This 100 years of twisted love makes one really feel touched. Big sisters even have novels and drawings with both of you as the models. Woo you, big sister, why are you covering my mouth? Hee hee, Lord, I'm sorry, it is all the random ramblings of those below. There aren't many people who know about the secret between you and Lord Adam. We will help to keep the secret, so rest easy. Covering the mouth of her little sister who spilled the massive news, Diana nods her head in sympathy. At this moment, 10,000 mud horses, Count Nima, runs through my mind and I could hear the rumbling of lightning by my ear. TL, homophone for screw your mum. Lord Roland is already a lich, so his love with City Lord would be even tougher. I really want to reveal these details to those artists. Their drawings are too conservative, too outdated. It is a life and death same-sex love, so beautiful. No, Diana, you must control yourself. You mustn't reveal Lord Woomian's secret for your own desires. If I knew the thoughts of this seemingly serious and proper female knight, I would have killed her with a single strike of my hammer or find a pillar to knock my head with on a spot. WHO said IT. Who is the one? WHO spread IT first. If a rumor spreads to a point where there is even a book on it, I find it hard to believe if there's no mastermind behind it. Lord Silver Rose. It has already been 15 years. Everyone thought that it was true. The drawings already have more than 100 versions, so everyone thought you have acknowledged them. In that instant, my rage suddenly cools down. I am speechless. Elisa. 15 years ago? Isn't it around the time when I asked her to spread rumors about Adam? I felt like raging, but yet, I found the situation quite hilarious. Back then, didn't I order her to spread rumors about Adam so that he won't be able to find a girlfriend? As usual, looks like I managed to shoot my own foot again. Back then, I was even surprised by how the rumors was so effective. Looks like, the content of the rumors was secretly changed by the cunning Elisa. How could a man whose sexuality is twisted be liked by women? No wonder all of the men and women trembled in front of Woomians after the incident. As I expected. Elisa, the reason why I am unpopular and why I can't find a girlfriend, no matter how I think about it, it is your fault. Back then, whenever I said such words, there would bound to be an icy cold voice who retorts coldly to my comments. No. The reason is because your brain has been dunked in water. Do you need me to give you a mirror, wanting to date even though you are an undead? Hee hee. Fine, even if she isn't here now, I am used to adding in her venomous comments in my head. At this moment, the venomous tongue lady, who is used to hiding in my shadows, is currently lying quietly in her own room, unconscious. Thinking about this reality which makes one feel helpless, rage rises up from within and the next moment, it disappears. A feeling of weakness spreads through my body. I weakly wave my hand in denial. I am not gay. Help me explain the matter properly and confiscate those messy things, then I will help you get that belt. After hearing my reply, the two dark elves are so happy that tears start flowing down. Hugging together, they nod their head. But, behind the walls, a bunch of men jump out and frantically waves their hands and shakes their heads. There is even a thief who used the sign language that thieves use for reconnaissance. Don't agree. Why is that so? Looking carefully, some of them are rookies from the Hall of Legislation, some of them are judges from the Hall of Judgment. There are elderly and the young there. The only common point is that they are all male and that they were wearing the same badge with the same logo on it. Victoria Fan Club #1 fan. Alright, I roughly get it. Men and women are actually the equal, only small Vicador is superior. This may seem a little twisted and he is the only person there who is nodding and shaking his head at the same. Apparently, he is stuck in a dilemma. Long live Queen Victoria. Hey, this fellow actually managed to hit bullseye on the truth of history. He does have talent as a seer. I understand that the news must have leaked somehow. That's why these fellows are rushing here to prevent Victoria from turning back into a man. Facing the agitated guys, I flash a faint smile and signal out a few hand signals myself. On the other side, the dwarf who is well versed in the thief's sign language is deciphering my message word by word to his companions. You all can go to die for all I care. Tomorrow, all of you submit a 10,000 word essay up for me to check. The topic is a discussion on normal core values. If any bastard dares to not submit their essay, they will be sent to feed Beifing. as long as it has not been revealed, then schemes and sins are non-existent. This is a well-known saying among the Dark Elves. Lorsai encourages her daughter to slaughter each other, and in the end, the strongest and most cunning one would ascend to the throne. The ranking of each family in each city, even if it represents the highest glory and status, but it is also a target to assassinate. From a certain sense, the rules of the game the Spider Queen plays with the Dark Elf is also the rules of the entire underground world. Even though I know that the Dragon Queen and Lion King pulled one over me, but I am unable to confront them head-on for revenge. During the duration of the conference, all acts of war is banned. Those who break this rule will become the public enemy of everyone else. But if I can exact vengeance on the openly, can't I do it discreetly? During the conference, we offended quite a few underground city lords. In the underground world, there is no such phrase as repaying hostility with kindness. If you are unable to get back at the opposing party, others will just view you as weak, and weakness is a cardinal sin in this world. Those underground city lords don't know what the meaning of offering a helping hand in times of crisis is. On the contrary, they are more likely to split your corpse among them. Offering a helping hand in times of crisis, greater than literally means sending charcoal in the middle of winter. Vertical bar split your corpse, greater than literally means multiple wolves splitting your corpse, meaning that they will divide your property among them after you are dead. I threw the scepter to them, obviously trying to land the other in trouble. Now that the other party has exacted vengeance through the undead lords, all of the underground city lords will probably be keeping tabs on the happenings and treat it as the crossing of blades between the new and old autarch. So, I must repay them back with heavy interests. The repayment must be in line with the rules, making the other party feeling actual pain without a trace of bloodshed. In reality, my head hurts a little. Going by logic, the closer we are to the date of the auction, the greater the stress on the Lion King will be. Undead lords aren't easy to deal with, so sitting by the side to view the fight between the two would be the best course of action. Then, at the end of their battle, I will add insult to injury. This is much more worth it than to challenge the old Lion King as the new generation. But, if I don't anything, not only will I be belittled by others, I also can't take this lying down. Victoria's request has provided me inspiration for my revenge plot. Purchasing the belt. From the very start, it is an impossible task. Firstly, we accidentally offended all of the underground city lords. If we were to express intent to buy anything, those underground city lords, who don't have high regard of you, in order to get back at us, they would surely be willing to dump all their money in. Even if no one stands up and puts their money in, those underground autarchs also won't let us go like that. Since we are unable to buy it, then we might as well steal it. Of course, due to the matter with Eternal Night Scepter, the auction would definitely be on their guard and the defense would be tight. But, isn't the world's #1 thief, Child of Greed in my hands? No matter how tight a defense is, it is targeted towards humanoid living creatures. Even safes and cages wouldn't be able to keep out a liquid-like living thing with the ability to morph its shape freely. The main body of greed in the underground tunnel has died, as I expected. But this doesn't mean all of the Child of Greed would simply die off. A portion of the Child of Greed has been taken by the Druids of the Wild Bull Alliance and treated as their sacred object. The Animal Alliance member who is drafting in others to spend their life together, that Beifeng, also caught of them to make it his pet. He used his abilities as a beastman hunter to keep them alive. I already can't imagine what would he breed them into and what would happen after returning to Sulphur Mountain City. As I expected, I must dump this bunch of perverts here and let them fend for themselves. But now, I feel a bit thankful to these perverts. Otherwise, I would have to open the bottle of the main body of greed which has been topped up while under the pressure of knowing what is going to happen. If I accidentally go too far, based on my understanding on myself, there is an 80% chance that I will go too far, and come with a shirtless city. Elisa would kill me as soon as she wakes up. I should borrow an animal companion of a druid and undergo mental resonance with this mysterious slime who is half dead half alive. Why don't I borrow from Hunter Beifeng? Mental resonance will instinctively cause one to share the physical memories of the undead. I don't want to know a single thing about what the world's strongest pervert has done. Due to the trap I laid, the auction and the Lion King's residence are now history. Now, The Lion King and his family fortune should be together with the Dragon Queen. Thus, I brought the little thing to the entrance of the temporary residence of the Dragon Queen and put it down, letting it navigate through the underground works. Fine, let's ignore the waterway's horrid smell, as though as a salted fish has been placed for 30 months. Ignore the pitch-black residence of the waterway and ignore once again the projects between several guards that involve the pitting of intelligence and courage. After much trouble, I finally reached my destination. It is an extremely big treasure vault. A gigantic dragon sleeps at the entrance of the vault, and the dragon is actually the Dragon Queen herself. Looks like they have had enough of the endless thieves and burglars these days. Squeezing in from the vent, its interior actually has a wooden fence that serves as a blockade against the child of greed. But, with my direct control, this back door I created is only an instinctive fear towards it. How could it be able to stop me? After carefully creeping past several traps, I entered the core of the vault. Numerous auction items are placed together. There is a capacity limit to a slime's body, so only a few items can be taken away. The first one that I should give up on is the Eternal Night Scepter that is placed at the center of the treasure vault. HMPH, almost the same as my handicraft. Just that there isn't any soul feedback. I know that it is fake. Looks like the underground autarchs aren't fools. There are only fakes within the treasure vault that the Dragon Queen is guarding. At the same time, I can sense that the real scepter is still in the custody of the Lion King. The key to the water elemental dimension? Titan core? Hee, I really struck it rich this time. Being excessively greedy isn't a good thing. After taking away the few most valuable items and the belt, I started on my journey back. But, on the way, just outside the vent, I can hear the discussion between the Lion King and a certain person. You must protect the scepter properly. If you screw this up, Lion, death isn't the end. Your soul will be crying in agony in the Count's lantern for eternity. Yes, Lord. Please tell the Count that I will complete the mission. A Count that can actually make an underground autarch act so meek. It should be a demon Count. Listening to him mentioning a soul lantern, a familiar name appears in the depths of my brain. Demon Count. Soliter Cockajil. Just when I wanted to inch closer to listen in, the voice sudden turns deep and hard to interpret. They must be talking about some secret, so they faded out their voices using magic. But, for a slime, they don't listen with their ears, just the fixed tremor from the sound waves is sufficient. Dimension gate will open. The army of the Count will drown everything Sulphur Mountain City. Fire elemental god. Traitor. Apparently, from the look of these key phrases, the Lion King and the demon has yet to give up. They seem to be plotting something, but it is a pity that something is interfering with my eavesdropping, causing the intelligence I get to be scattered. Then, to prevent getting noticed by detection magic, I removed my control from the child of greed, allowing it to come back through the underground works by itself. Fine, I admit that it is mainly that spell and the black thing that makes on nauseated. Surprisingly, on the way back to the base, I felt that while it was climbing out of the underground waterworks, someone attacked it and it died. Looks like someone thought that it was an assassin and killed it. Oh well, seeing the reaction from my power of law, it should be a comrade from the Hall of Judgment. I will ask them about it tomorrow to retrieve my items. Considering that it was already 4 in the morning, I etched the location where I lost connection with the slime in my head and made up my mind to retrieve those items when day breaks. The next morning, before daybreak, a high-pitched female scream caused the entire mansion to wake up earlier. TL, time system don't work the same there. This sound, seems like it is crows. Wait, crows. The number one beauty of the judicial system. The place where the disturbance is at seems to be Crow's bedroom. I stare speechlessly at the blue sky. From my experience with misfortune, it seems that something has gone wrong again. As expected, when I took out my dwarf binoculars, what I saw is a young lady running around in tears. Along with the long pants for the male uniform, there is a brand new belt. As for the upper body, there is a bloat in her shirt around the chest. The plumbed mountains cannot be covered even with both of her arms. The face of the beauty is surprisingly similar with Crow's. Looks like the number one beautiful person is about to turn into number one beautiful lady. Can I feign ignorance over this matter? Right, prepare a file tomorrow. First, ban the Victoria fan club. Then ban the Crows fan club, which has an 80% chance of appearing. I am a good person. These misfortunes really aren't related to in any case. Chapter 52. Tragedy. Return it to me. That is my belt. For it, I am willing to pay anything. Why must you snatch away my final hope? The female dark elf's face is full of tears, but she still resiliently holds onto Crow's waist, her tears wetting the other party's chests. Let go. Crow's also feels like crying. She only picked up a belt from a child of greed and she just wanted to give it a try, seeing how pretty it is. How did it end up like this? The comrades from Four Courts One Hall all looked at Crow's with sympathy. Alright, let's ignore those people whose faces are smiling weirdly and those mysterious saliva. Let's treat those as sympathy as well. You took away my final hope. I'm going to kill you. The immature Victoria raises her fist, intending to do a double suicide with Crow's. I'm even worse than you. I even have a fiancé. I will be returning to my old home to marry in 50 years. Woo you. Remembering her childhood sweetheart, the weak Crow sits down on the floor, paralyzed, as tears flow freely down her face. Woo you. Why are we so unfortunate? We should both be men. Looking at Crows who curse to the same fate as her, Victoria puts down her little fist she was waving about. In the end, the ill-fated girls hugs together and starts bawling. Helpless, I shake my head. I might not have done it intentionally, but I do have to take responsibility for this incident. At least, I should try to think of some ideas to end this farce. Actually, this world's necromancy is much more effective than plastic surgery and sex change. Organ transplant can't even count as a minor surgery. If both of them all don't mind using other people's organs, why don't I ask them whether they would like me to help them do a little surgery? In the end, I gave up on this idea that solved the crux of the problem. Somehow, I feel like if I said it out, not only do I have to be beaten up, the remaining dignity and chastity that I have remaining will be lost. Again, this chastity refers to restraint and not the other one he is never losing. I better look for other ideas. In this moment, the system jumps out to brush up its existence and look for trouble. Ding. Number. Alright, the system doesn't recall how many people has met with misfortune because of you. But, even the system can't look on at such a tragedy, so I think I better award you something. You have awarded the noble title, the Star of Misfortune. After equipping this title, you will gain the passive skill Aura of Plague. This title cannot be hidden and the aura is active permanently. The full translation of the title is born as the Star of Misfortune, but the first 3 words doesn't go along well. The Star of Misfortune. In daily life, you have always seen the looks of other people meeting with misfortune. In fact, you even started thinking that this is the normal flow of the world. However, one day, you realize that you are the source of all their misfortune. After equipping the title, Charm -10, damage you take from little animals will be tripled. Aura of Plague. For some reason, the pets you keep always die. The people you meet are also unfortunate. If someone feels that his life is all successful and fears nothing, or when someone feels that his life couldn't get worse than it is, then, he must have yet to meet you. Effects of the aura. Hidden stat luck plus 10%. Yes, Inkgrace, you didn't see wrongly. However, as long as there is a possibility of meeting with misfortune, even if the chances are only 1%, someone is bound to meet with it. The lower the luck, the higher the chances of meeting with a misfortune. If there's no one who takes the blow, then the one who will be unfortunate will be you. P.S. The aura doesn't work on Lancer and the female lead of Korean dramas. Why? You know that the same effects cannot be stacked. If we are talking about misfortune, their Lancer and supporting cast is bound to meet with tragedy is much stronger than your Aura of Plague. Yup, from the Fate series. Now you know why I increased your luck, right? Go and find some unlucky fellows to serve as your lightning rod. I finally understand what it means for the system to acknowledge that you are a star of misfortune. That negative effects for the -10 charm, for my -88 charm, there is actually not much meaning in it. Anyway, I can already use my face to scare off other people. Then, there isn't much of a difference between scaring a few and scaring dozens of people. However, this is the first time that I am aware that there is actually a luck stat in this world. Somehow, even if the system doesn't show it, I know that my luck is bound to be shockingly low. However, I am a little interested in the Aura of Plague. Experts must learn to use every factor that can be used, even if the factor looks like it is a prank and is screwed up. It's hard to say that maybe a precious jewel will be found in a little stone by the side of the road. The lower the luck, the easier to meet with misfortune, huh? Then let me give it a try. Casually picking up 3 stones, I throw one of them into the sky with all of my might. When it is flying halfway up in the sky, a strong wind blows, and after a beautiful arc of trajectory, bang, it happens to knock onto Roland number 2, which is under repairs, and slides down the gigantic robot's body. Dang, dang, dang. After several rebounds, it finally found its target. Ah, it hurts. Who is it? Who is it? Who is the inconsiderate one? The stone happens to hit on the head of Center Anya, who is hired as chef. Then, it slides down. Ah, Anya's soup. Ah, my plate. Don't, that vase is very expensive. Uncle Henry will kill me. The stone rebounds between a few porcelains. Pa pa pa, guang dang, after a few crisp sounds, Under Anya frantically tried to salvage the situation. All of them broke into fragments. In reality, seeing the situation clearly, if she doesn't move at all, she would have only destroyed a plate at most. However, she ran about with her 4 hoofs and clumsily tried to grab the stone, overturning several tables on the way, causing all of the plates and porcelain to shatter. The person with the lowest luck has appeared. Huh? Poor child, I hope that you can pay that off with 1 month of your wages. Sympathetically shaking my head, I stare at the figure who is grabbing the broken plates, trying to put them back together. Noticing the silhouette behind her, I decided to give her a helping hand. Diana, go and help Anya. Bai Feng has set his gaze on her and is currently laughing indecently by the window. Don't let him succeed, and there's no need to consider my reputation. Just beat up until he is the verge of death. You don't have to be worried about him dying. The gold rank hunter is actually quite sturdy. I send the town security team off with my gaze. Currently, the one who has the lowest luck stat is indubitably the unlucky Center Anya, who lost several jobs due to our appearance. The second. After hesitating for a moment, I still decided to give it a try. This time, despite a wind blowing, the stone actually bizarrely maintains its previous motion and simply flies straight up and down. It can't be, it's me. Just when it is about to hit my head, the wind blows again, and floating with the wind, it hits on the head of another unlucky fellow. Ah, it hurts. The unlucky Victoria happens to take the blow. The small rock falls into her long hair, and the uncomfortable Victoria shakes her head forcefully, causing the stone to fly out. Bo! That is the crisp sound of the lumps of flesh hitting each other. The thing that shouldn't exist shook uncontrollably due to the impact of external force, and under the rough motions, the shirt, which is already stretched to its limit, finally breaks. Snow white flesh bounces out and Crows immediately turns red. This isn't the end yet. Ah! Following the exclamation of the Lechers, the rock continues to slide downwards into her pants. At this moment, the panicking Crow starts to cry again. Don't move, big sister. Let me retrieve it for you. Due to their equally ill fate, Victoria, who has just forged a strong revolutionary friendship as sisters with her, takes the initiative to put her hands into the other party's pants to search for the stone. Stop! But Crows, who is frightened by the situation, feels extreme fear at the foreign feeling between her thighs and is shivering. She immediately grabs a demonic hand which is about to do evil. In the end, it turned into a physical fight between 2 sisters. The wolves in the surrounding were agitated and howling about, especially in response to Crow's open shirt. Alright, I better clean up my own mess. It is too dangerous to allow this situation to develop like that. Will I say that the scene of the exposure of the 2 top beauties gives me an urge to roar to the heavens. Yawn, take those bastards whose male hormones is excessively secreted to the kitchen to clean it up. Not far away, the town security team is currently lynching Bai Feng, who was intending to hunt. On the other side, Anya keeps apologizing to head chef Henry of the kitchen while picking up the broken fragments. Alright, in reality, fearing that she would be fired, the panicking her is still destroying the kitchen. Pa! Why did it break? Anya didn't do it on purpose. Uncle, please don't fire me. Anya will try her best to clean up. Ah, why did it break again? Go quickly, before the clumsy centaur destroys all of our tableware, causing us to be unable to eat our dinner. Just 2 stones have brought terror of another meaning here. Looking at the final stone in my palm, I shivered. Perhaps, This stone might be even more dangerous than the Eternal Night Scepter that I made with all my effort. So is the second one Victoria of Gross? Forget it, it's roughly the same. I will just rank both of them as number 2. Since I already have 3 lightning rods, as long as they are beside me, I don't have to be worried about the effects of the aura of plague. No, for such a thing like a lightning rod, it is better to have more of it. After making up my decision to continue, I cast a dash spell on myself and fly as far away so as to not affect those around me. Go, my lightning rod detector. Show me who is the next unlucky fellow. But, the stone disappears from sight the instant it flew out. It actually followed the draft of the wind all the way up to the clouds. Then, a roar could be heard. Which bastard is it throwing stuff at other people? I %. It's Little Red's voice. Recently, people have been knocking at her door and beating her up. As she has yet to get even with them despite suffering under them, her resentment has been piling up. It's Little Red? Isn't her luck quite good normally? Hee, looks like this toy isn't very accurate. So it is you, bastard. You are the reason why I have been so unlucky recently. You still dare to challenge me. Eat my body slam. Fine. Looking at the dark silhouette which keeps growing bigger and the angry roar, I corrected my judgment. Oh, so I am the third one. I better keep a lightning rod by my side at all times in the future. Cough. Let's not talk about how I caused a chaos and how I managed to escape with my life. After this incident, I am resolved to bring a person with lower luck than me at all times. After that, as lightning rods, I felt quite bad to Victoria and Crows who helped me to avert quite a few calamities. In the end, I found far-fetched solution to it. Spring of Drowned Man. A magical spring from an old manga. It can grant a unique physique to a female, such that when coming in contact with hot water, she would turn into a male, and when coming in contact with cold water, she would turn back into a female. Ranma half. In order to win this rare treasure from a foreign world, I spent just a lot of points and a few lottery chances and finally got what I wanted. But there is only one Spring of Drowned Man. At that moment, Crows and Victoria, who have become even closer than blood-related sisters, for the opportunity to become an incomplete man, they fought each other and in the end, under the effects of a certain aura of plague, the spring water ended up being overturned on an unlucky passerby. Tragedy. Chapter 53, The Chieftain of Centaurs. That night, the skies of Vance City weren't peaceful. It was at a small market outside a mining area. It is also a place where many underground trade deals were done. After all, this market is rather far from the city and there are only broken slums in the surroundings. Movements would leave behind trace, making it hard for an ambush to succeed, thus effectively preventing assaults from other gangs. Even so, there is still a messy graveyard here that is used to bury those unlucky fellows who thought that this was a safe land but still ended up sleeping here. The residents here are also used to overlooking the scene of 2 trading parties failing to come to an agreement and breaking out in a fight. At this moment, another trade wasn't successfully negotiated and the both parties came to blows. If I have to point out something was different about it, then I could only be say that the scale of this conflict is slightly bigger. The injured ancient red dragon is howling in agony. The big window opened and its abdomen bleeds continuously and its wings are tied together tightly by a pitch black spider silk, unable to spread it open at all. I will just stick closely with the author's use of his, her and didn't want to eat, but Appa don't allow. The gigantic 8-legged spider keeps harassing her. The mysterious venom that it left on her paralyzes her physical body. In a state of dizziness and blurred vision, she was completely unable to leave the surface. Crimspur, if you continue acting so indecisive, our agreement will be cancelled. You will have to face the wrath of us, the royalty faction. Or maybe, do you think that your strength can rival with Yadingsi, your scheming can compare with Lionheart? If so, you can just wage war on us directly. Do you want to try to see if the 12 senators will just end up with 10 senators before you can return to Ziluo? Yadangsi, greater than Adang's full name, still looking for a better name. The roar of the blue crystal bone dragon in the sky made the indecisive to muster up their determination. The corroded plains of ants. Following the furious howl of the Ant King Larmost, the soul world that belongs solely to him activates and the entire world changes. The badly injured Dragon Queen Molly is forcefully dragged into a decayed plains. BZZST. cc. A bizarre sound coming from the movement under the ground of the planes could be heard, making one instinctively feel threatened. Soon after, ant holes open one after another and a beige-colored giant ant soldier appears from within. They aren't very strong individually, but what that causes fear is their endless numbers. It wasn't long before the deserted land is full of holes. Below each and every hole is a kingdom of an ancient foreign ant-shaped race. Responding to the call of their king, countless ant soldiers opens their own ant hole. They are the soldiers and servants of the king when he was still alive. Just that this time, from the look of their soul fire burning in their blue-green eyes, they are a member of an undead army. Before Lamost was killed, he was the king of an ancient bug tribe. When his corpse was resurrected as an undead, his kingdom revived along with him. The long years have caused their physical body to become mostly decayed, resulting in their strength being diminished significantly, but his endless people is still his pride. The ant warriors raise their oddly shaped spears and wooden barriers and shouts their cheer before charging in fearlessly. The elephant ants, which are about the size of a small hill, serve as their war beasts, while the flying ant officers carried poison sac bombs filled with acid and begins their strafe of death. The ant queen standing at the very back starts to release their dark witchcraft, which is long lost in history. In an instant, the powerful dragon queen ends up being lynched by the army of ants. When she kills one, 10 others rush up to fill their place. Her dragon breath burns 100 flying ants to their death, but 1,000 more appear afterwards. Furthermore, the troublesome death curses and dark witchcraft is fatal and dangerous. There isn't a single undead senator that is easy to deal with. Lamost may be weak individually, but he has a strong soul world to make up for it. It is just that his powerful soul world, the corroded plains of ants, depletes his mana extremely quickly, so he doesn't use it usually, causing his ranking to be on the lower side. HMPH. An idiot who uses soul world to make up for his lack of strength. If Yadingsi didn't harass the dragon queen, she would be able to fly, and the first thing she would do is to kill you, even at the risk of aggravating her injuries. Idiot. Individual strength is the basic and the most important of all. What Graya said is the truth. For powerful fighting races like Undead Lords and the Dragon Tribe, their overwhelming talent restricts them for developing their own path suited to them. While their talent may be able to overpower them, but it also means that the level of the other techniques that they learn will be much lower. However, for them to face the weak mortals, just using their physical body would suffice. TL. Meaning they focus on their race talents rather, causing other aspects to be lacking. In fact, in the eyes of a portion of extremists, mortals must cultivate to reach the height as them, and they view this fact as an evidence of their great strength in their highborn. If they need strength, they just need some time to retrieve it from their bloodline. Things like cultivating and studying aren't needed for them. Of course, there are also quite a few who are like Inzmizius, who despite being an ancient red dragon but reached quite a scary level of attainment in the field of both wind magic and fire magic. However, those are like Little Red are still the minority. Most of the members of the dragon tribe still depend on their physical talent to feed themselves. They normally just sleep and wait for them to evolve by themselves with the flow of time. In fact, there are quite a few dragon tribe who don't have soul imprint. But, simply by using their fearsome physical body and basic strength, basic stat, it is not that difficult a task to tear apart a few legend ranks. As for undead lords, there are quite a few who are born strong that acts that way as well. Even more so, Adang is a monster without any notion of power rank. However, even semi-god humans have to be careful around him. Fine, our Lord Graya will never admit that she doesn't have a soul world at all, and she is very envious of this powerful soul world, especially when this soul world has been praised by a certain someone and acknowledged by the masses. HMPH. What the soul world that is the closest to the level of Undead Emperor? It is just that he has the same type of soul world as the Emperor. That's why his one has been overestimated by quite a bit. What is the use when he can only sustain it for 3 minutes? Look, it is already revealing its true form. The situation of the fight below changes. The panting Lamost finally finds himself unable to sustain his soul world. As the illusory world starts to shatter, the heavily wounded Dragon Empress starts her counterattack. Crimspur stands in front of Lamost to guard him. With a strong physical body, he makes up for the deficiency of the Ant King. On other days, they have always teamed up like that. However, this time, from the look of the black figure that is suddenly descending from the sky, There is no chance for him to strike. Die. Grya dives and sends a fatal phosphorus dragon breath down, plunging the lens into a sea of green flames. This kind of vicious poisonous flame is extremely acidic. If it gets on you, it will immediately penetrate the bones and burn it to ashes. Even if it is Molly, in the face of this dangerous sea of flames, she could only retreat. Her movement to dodge the flames gave Adang an opportunity. From the form of a spider which represents spinding, he turns into an ink-green big-mouthed monster in a distortion. With the entire body of a gigantic deformed monster that seems to have only a mouth remaining, he uses his short legs to jump up in a manner reminiscent of a frog. Opening his wide mouth that is big enough to bite into mountains, he actually directly swallows the Dragon Queen. This isn't eating. This is attacking. For delicious food, Adang is enlightened for once. With her life in danger, the Dragon Queen gives a final look at her wings which is bind and corroding under the spider silk. Then, with a twist of her body, she actually retreats a few steps in an awkward position in midair. Ah! Ow! Even so, in the next second, dragon blood and a shriek of agony fills the air. The Dragon Queen has just suffered a heavy blow. With that mouthful from Adang, her two dragon wings disappear. But the Dragon Queen smiles in response. Like this, I can finally fly. The vicious Dragon Queen actually took the initiative to gift her own wings to Adang. After getting free from the spider silk which restrains Mana, she regains her ability to fly. Losing her two wings as support, it will be more difficult, but the ability to fly of the dragon tribe doesn't just depend on their wings. Using all of her remaining mana to fly, a formless wind lifts the Dragon Queen's massive wounded body and lifts her up rapidly. Without any consideration about her mana consumption, her speed is actually much faster than usual days. Even without the support of her wings, for the red dragons who are the most skilled in flying techniques among the dragon tribe, it isn't difficult for her to shake off a bone dragon who is known to be slow. Her calculations are well done, but, ouch, who is so inconsiderate, flying around with their eyes closed. TL. She says ouch in English. The Dragon Queen who is anxious to flee accidentally bumps into a gigantic dragon who happens to be passing by. If it was just a normal young dragon, within 10 meters, he would have been sent flying by the Dragon Queen. However, the one she bumped into just had to be an ancient red dragon, 30 meters and above, as well. Flying with your eyes closed, changing your path randomly and flying against the direction of the lane. Where did you learn your flying rules from? Aren't you afraid that 12 points will be deducted from you at one go, causing your flying license to be confiscated? The ancient red dragon who is full of nonsense yawns and gazes downwards curiously. Oh, isn't this my vicious old mother who ruthlessly killed her own husband, one son and 3 daughters? Why, are you so lonely that you can't sleep that you sneaked out for a walk in the night? Hee hee, looks like we are on the same line. Should we fly together? Molly, whose magic power and wind current which has been messed up by the crash, can only dive down straight like a metal ball. In the end, she realized that the flow of current has been completely controlled by the other party, causing her to be unable to even float. In the end, she gives up the useless struggle of flapping the remains of her wings. Frustrated, she dives down straight like a piece of rock. Below, the undead lords are waiting for her while sharpening their blades. In the end, she could only helplessly scream at the dragon. Insmesius, you won't die a proper death. Little Red simply yawns in response, turns around, glides away and continues on her walk, leaving behind just a single message. Old one, your teachings back then aren't wrong. The howling of a loser is really hard to look at. TL greater than can mean old mother, albeit in a disrespectful way. It is also how the Dark Elves often refer to themselves with. In this case, it is a bit like a gangster-like way to refer to yourself. The heavy black clouds crush the sky of Vance City. As the date to the auction draws closer, the atmosphere of the city grows more and more tense and suppressing. A large portion of underground city lords didn't leave after the conference. That auction, which hasn't been publicized anyhow, has already spread across the entire city. In their eyes, the show is just about to start. The new and old arts are sure to cross blows on the auction, causing a change in the splitting of powers in the entire underground world. A true god equipment is going to be auctioned. An item that involves the absolute treasure of Zayuo's royal authority is going to be auctioned. The intelligence network of the kingdoms and their thief guild isn't just for show. A month is more than enough for the news to spread furiously on the surface. As the city is quite close to the tunnel leading to the surface, the city is already full of experts coming from different land and different races. At the very start, the Beastman Sovereign has tried to seal the tunnel, but very quickly, he realized that it was an arduous and impossible task. The allure of the god equipment is too great. The normal Beastman soldiers are meaningless to experts, and if they happen to piss off the other party, they might just end up erased. After their sentry post has been cleaned more than 10 times, even though the order to seal up the path has yet to be lifted due to the dignity of the autarch, but in reality, the leader of those sentry posts has already been changed into the old and the weak. Of course, the soldiers who are being treated as cannon fodders aren't foolish too. They gamble, play mahjong, drink alcohol and everything else except for stopping the passers-by from the surface in the sentry post. The sealing order has just become the ears of the blind. Decoration. Once again, the Lion King's reputation goes down. I think it is eyes of the blind, but I'm just going to go with the Roz in the off chance I'm wrong. As the countdown to the auction starts, not mentioning the appearance of the chaos beings like demons and undead, the public enemies of the surface, even the Straphims, god envoys, and war angels, the order beings from the higher dimensions, can be seen on the streets. What is even more incredulous is that they actually seem to have come to an understanding. Despite drawing their swords and staring at each other furiously, they didn't start a war directly. This kind of eerie situation makes one feel the coming of a storm even more clearly. To be truthful, looking at this situation, I feel that even if they send 2 semi-gods down and wins the auctions, they might not even be able to bring it out. The ones who got hit the worst is probably the alliance between the Beastman Sovereign and the Dragon Queen. Apparently, there are people who don't have the patience to wait until the day of the auction. The uninvited guests who tries to lay their hands on the scepter grows more and more stronger and savage. When the 1,000-meter-long Moss Geo giant beast plummets rapidly from the sky of the city, not mentioning the Beastman who was caught in the blast, even I started to suspect if Vance will be destroyed just like that. Fortunately, the 2 underground autarch has shifted their elite forces here. After paying a heavy price, the Scorpion-tailed Knights and Red Dragons managed to defeat the giant beasts who suddenly appeared and suddenly disappeared. When someone was surprised over the disappearance of the Dragon Queen over the course of the battle, another inconceivable rumor started to spread. Dragon Queen Molly has been assaulted and is heavily wounded. Not the same giant beast as the Moss Geo giant beast above that belongs to the Beastman. The Dragon Queen has been dominating the underground for over thousands of years. Even more so, her individual strength is within the top 10 of the entire underground world. There are quite a lot of experts among the underground city lords. Autarchs only represent the influence. She is also well known to be cunning. This kind of expert can escape even if they are defeated, so for her to be forced to the brink of death is quite unbelievable. Furthermore, if it wasn't for the timely appearance of the backups from the Dragon City, the underground Dragon City might have to elect a new Dragon Queen by now. The ones who launched the attacks were the 5 Zayuo senators. The reason? It is said that the Dragon Queen actually dared to owe the farmers their wages, so the head workers who failed in their protests for their salary started to lynch her. Alright, there is no farmers in this world, nor is there head workers. The truth is the Dragon Queen hired assassins, but she went back on her promise afterwards, saying that if they don't the mission, she won't allow the undead lords to come into contact with the scepter. In the end, the angered undead lords surrounded her to beat her up. However, those who are aware of the situation knew that this is the revenge from Sulphur Mountain City. After all, the ones who had their promise broken were only 3 undead lords, but the one exacting the vengeance were 5. Furthermore, they directly assaulted her just after a bit of disagreement. Not to forget, there are also grudges among the undead lords, making this incident smell very obviously of a scheme. In addition to that, at the key moment, the one who prevented the Dragon Queen from successfully fleeing is the disaster of Veronan's Muse who happens to pass by. Alright, I admit that it was my plan to be able to release her all her frustrations in one breath, Little Red was so happy. She has finally exacted revenge from the grudges she accumulated from being lynched in Sulphur Mountain City. Aren't we being underestimated if stealing a few things can count as revenge? You hired undead senators as your fighters to attack me, so I will also hire them to exact vengeance on you. This method of retaliation conforms to the hypocritical rules of peace of the underground world. Even more so, it lets the world understand that Sulphur Mountain City is not to be underestimated. The individual strength of the Dragon Queen is the strongest backup for the Dragon Beastmen alliance. Now that the news that the Dragon Queen is heavily wounded, the Beastmen army, which have already suffered quite a heavy blow, delves into chaos. The morale, which didn't fall even when the Morse Geo giant beast was killed, started wavering. It is said that escapees started appearing in the military barracks that night. This is the first time ever since Shu built his army. It is said that the Lion King's heart was broken. Previously, his hair turned white overnight. This time, his mane turned completely white. The ones who wavered even more is the arrogant dragon tribe. The Dragon Queen got her into her high position by killing her husband. She depends on her individual strength to suppress and rule over 7 dragon cities. From the very start, the Black Dragons only view her as their leader in name. She was only able to dispatch the young Red Dragons. Now that she was defeated, everyone started pushing on the collapsed wall. The ambitious young dragons of the Dragon City is already plotting an opportunity for them to usurp the position, while the older elder dragons even propose to bring back Innsmouth's TL. Immemorial dragons greater than ancient dragons greater than elder dragons greater than young dragons. But to me, what I was most surprised about is the sudden visit of the important guest in front of me. Mage Hunter Meniel, the chieftain of the Center Beastmen and well-known myth-rank expert. If we are just talking about individual strength on the surface, he is even stronger than Shu. It is said that he has bad relations with Shu. His skills with the bow that combine the techniques of his predecessors with his own magic arrows is famous in the whole underground world. More importantly, I have a grudge with him. Margaret has been well taken care of by you. Meniel, you actually dare to appear in front of me. You really think that your strength is enough for you to do as you please? You are not afraid of us bringing you down? In the battle outside Sulphur Mountain City, Meniel's magic combustion arrow caused Margaret's Ician to be cast prematurely, and 3 of the precious saint stones were destroyed. Fixing them would require an astronomical amount of gold coins. Margaret would grind her teeth in anger every time this centaur is mentioned. A size bigger than normal centaurs, he doesn't have any defensive object other than the copper heart protecting mirror. The huge bow on his back is rather eye-catching. If we just look at outer appearance, this gentle-looking centaur with a long beard does have the aura of a scholar. Right now, in the face of my enmity and challenge, the old centaur smiles. I am really sorry for that incident then. I was negotiating with Shu back then, and through a series of coincidences, I was brought to Sulphur Mountain City. If it weren't for the forbidden spell being too scary that I would be caught in its midst, I wouldn't have struck out. Besides, my attack towards Lord Saint wasn't life-threatening, and that should be enough to show my sincerity. Despite it being an arrogant declaration, but I instinctively feel that he is speaking of the truth. After all, while being surprised that the chieftain of Center would side with Shu, Margaret was curious why she didn't meet with the magic-penetrating cluster arrow where his expertise lies in. This also proves from another point of view that he is indeed speaking the truth. The entire underground world knows that we are different from those uncultivated barbarians who eat fresh meat and drink blood. I am quite pleased to see the losses of Shu and his subordinates, the bunch of butchers. If I wasn't forced to play my hand, I'm afraid that my gifts and congratulatory letter would have been long sent to your residence. I have also heard a little about this. Centaurs and Taurans are known as the Herbivore Alliance, and they have bad relations with the current Beastman sovereign Scorpion-tailed Lion Shu and his close subordinates. One side scolds the other as fresh meat-eating barbarians, while the other scolds them grass-eating hoofed livestock. This has already become a common situation. Then, why are you here today? I thought that he would start trembling about a bunch of what the enemy of an enemy is an ally or similar kind of crap, and just like other underground city lords, they forge a secret alliance with us. But the old Meniel smiles bitterly and shakes his head. Wormians, since we have already come to this step, why are you still playing the fool? Just tell me directly if you have any terms. Can you allow me to see my grandniece first? What? This tone, it feels like the helpless compromising of an old wealthy merchant to the kidnappers when his nephew is kidnapped. Stop feigning ignorance. I will give in to your terms. I have no idea how you found out that Anya is my only kin, the candidate as the next chieftain of the Centaur tribe. I have obviously hidden so well for so many years. Just speak if you have any conditions, just don't go too far. Otherwise, the bow and arrows in our hands aren't that easy to deal with. What? This time, I was really surprised. That number one misfortune lightning rod for me, the annoying silly lass who keep repeating her words, is actually the candidate as the chieftain of the Centaur tribe. If she really becomes the chieftain, then won't the entire Centaur tribe be destroyed? You all really didn't know? The instincts of an expert made Meniel realize that I wasn't feigning ignorance. I really didn't know. Who would treat that silly lass as an important figure? After my shock passed, I simply laughed while shaking my head. But, now I know. Meniel regrets his word deeply. Now, he must pay an additional price for his carelessness. There is no problem for you to meet her. But my decisiveness in letting her go make him extremely surprised. It isn't that I don't want to make use of this situation to extort something, but quickly take her away. At least, before all of our plates are destroyed. Yesterday, quite a few of us used cups of tea at dinner. Also, do you accept compensation bill? Given her rate of destruction, if you start accepting it late, you would have to prepare more cash. These few days, we finally understood why Anya keeps getting fired. It is enough that she is clumsy, a hard-working but silly lass is also cute. But, her luck is so bad that accidents can happen anywhere and everywhere. While wiping the glasses would break. While moving the tables would collapse. She would even meet with the collapse of the rotten floor while wiping it. This is a little too much for one to bear. The things she does makes people mad, but when looking at her tearful and sincere apology and the fact that it wasn't intentional, just plain bad luck, it was hard to harden one's heart to criticize her. Quickly take her away. Did you see that file on the table? It is a report on the damage she caused. Remember to pay the bill before you leave. Meniel, who is at a loss of whether to laugh or cry, nods his head. But I'm not going back. Unexpectedly, Anya directly refuses to go home. Why not? Is it because those bunch of bastards back at home treat you badly? Rest easy, your second granduncle will stand up for you. Shocked by the refusal of his grandniece, the dumbfounded Meniel immediately replies frantically. No, that isn't it. Big brothers treat Anya well. It is just that Anya doesn't want to stay in Camille Grasslands. Why? It can't be that there is someone who is vying over the succession at the chieftain. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, you will be the first successor. That isn't it either. It is not because of such a boring reason. Then? No one wants to be the chieftain or whatever. Anya just doesn't want to stay in the countryside for the rest of her life. Anya's goal is to become a rich lady of the city. Second granduncle, just look. There is nothing in the grasslands but grass and livestock. There is nothing nice to eat, no beauty products, no tall buildings or streets, no entertainment facility, no, and 300 other stuffs. Anya had enough to the life where I had no relieve myself in the grasses. Anya's goal is to become a wealthy lady in the city. It might not be very successful in the start, but I am finally on the right path after much difficulty. I'm definitely not going back. Those horrible days where there isn't a single candle during the night and I could only sleep. The little centaur spoke faster and faster, talking and laughing at the same time. On the contrary, the old centaur's face is getting darker and darker. There are quite a few youngsters who left the tribe for the sake of a comfortable life in the city, but he didn't expect his precious grandniece, which he put all his hopes on, would actually be like that as well. The big brothers and big sisters here treat me well. Even if Anya accidentally commit a mistake, they never criticize me or fire me like the other boss. I want to build my standing in the big city starting from here. I will first save my wages, then buy a little house. If I were to just work a little bit harder, there will be a day which I become affluent. Enough. I have really spoiled you too much. You aren't worthy of being the descendant of the line of heroes of Centaur. To throw away the traditions of the golden bloodline of the Centaurs so casually, despite having the noble blood of the predator of the grassland, but for a cowardly and weak life in the city, you are willing to become a pig waiting in the fence to be slaughtered. You are the shame of the Centaurs. Come back with me now. I will train you properly. Old Menial drags the struggling Anya away. If it was just a few minutes ago, I would be more than willing to see such a sight. But now, after hearing the declaration of this youngster, I suddenly recall a thief Flaz who also came from the countryside. She might have also made a similar wish. I will dig treasures out, become the #1 wealthiest person in the world and live the life of a rich lady. Perhaps, other than their goals, the two lasses aren't in the least alike. At the very least, Elisa succeeded in striking it rich in the end, but I didn't see the possibility of Anya's goal being fulfilled. But somehow, I feel like helping this last. Thus, I stopped them both. Centaur Chieftain, perhaps we can talk about some interesting things. Such as the Beastman Sovereign. Such as the blood of the demons. For example, if the Beastman Sovereign of this generation has already been corrupted by the demons, perhaps, it is about time to replace him. Maybe, it is the time for the Centaur tribe to rise. Look, if Vance City is your future territory, then, maybe, the youngsters of your tribe wouldn't always think about leaving the tribe. Second and last one today. Ended up translating this chapter quite slowly. Was distracted by ice fantasy that was broadcasting by the side. Their characters and backgrounds are really too striking. Anyway, because I am distracted, there may be even more grammar errors in here. Super long chapter, so tiring. Anyway, it's a happy day for me since I drew Wind Polar Queen while writing this chapter. Maybe I should open the scrolls while writing next time. Finally, my second MB5 after Zyrasa. Hey ha 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 ha. I wanted to post this tomorrow, but I wanted to brag about my Tiana, so BTW, just to clarify, is the sound you make in acknowledgement to something someone is saying, something like the Avaha. Chapter 54, The Lucky Horseshoes in Solo Print. The negotiation with Old Menial isn't successful. Of course, the part that didn't go well isn't our request for an alliance. Since we have a common enemy, in the face of a strong enemy, forging an alliance is an entirely rational thing to do. It isn't because the old lion treat others badly. In actuality, his reputation among the Beastmen tribes is actually not bad. However, a powerful person would draw in enemies. The position as the sovereign of the Beastmen is very tempting. Many people are aiming for the position of an underground autarch. The moment they show a weakness, countless of underground city lords will try to usurp the position. Menial in front of me is obviously against the old lion. The tribes under him has been fighting with Shu's tribe on the surface and secretly for several centuries. If the old lion were to show a weakness, the first one to impeach the old lion would be him. After all, viewing the circumstances of the underground world, there must be a beastman among the autarch. However, the beastmen need not be Shu. One of the reason why Old Menial came over is to negotiate an alliance. Since we both have mutual interests, so the alliance when successful. Multiple agreements that is targeted against a certain lion has been agreed on swiftly. However, when we started to gossip about Anya's future, we got stuck in an impasse. Very apparently, towards a stubborn old man who wishes to allow her grandniece to inherit the family business, using the grandchildren have their own happiness that they want to pursue, the youngsters have their own world is meaningless. In their mind, there is nothing more important than tradition and the business passed down by their ancestors. For the interest of the family, they are even willing to sacrifice themselves, needless to sacrifice the freedom of choice for a youngster. Besides, in their eyes, this choice made for you is actually for your own good. Use the world business but actually isn't that sided to the commercial aspect. Inheritance, but not that commercial since it is impossible to reason with him, then let's just go with deception. I first complained about how the education of the elderly were too outdated, which led to youngsters not listening to them. Then, I compared Anya with Annie as an example. Look, they are both future successors of a city and there are huge expectations of them. Our Sulphur Mountain city's Annie is already gold rank pinnacle, ready to break through to legend at any time and she isn't 20. Even if compared to the entire world, she could be said to be a genius. What about your family's Anya? I don't think she is even silver rank. This is only a comparison of power. What is more important to a city lord is experience and qualifications. Look at our Annie. She has started doing her job as the city lord's successor and even served as the main ambassador of our envoy party. Our Annie is able to stand independently in the alliance conference. What about your family's Anya? Do you know how did we groom her? Lions will take the initiative to throw their cubs off the cliff. Annie has gone out to adventure when she was 12 so as to experience the world. That's why she is able to have such achievements today. You put your children in a large grassland without a single thing. How can you expect them to have the opportunity to explore and broaden their knowledge? They can't fight with strong opponents to refine their skills. Using your words, are they the eagles soaring in the midst of a hurricane or a fledgling shaking under the tree? I almost convinced myself with these words, but not all of these words are true. The reason why Annie is so strong individually is because of her unique inheritance. As for the experiences and knowledge she accumulated during her journey, I have heard her talk about her journey. It feels terrible to starve at night, but I mustn't follow strangers even when I am hungry, and getting wet from the rain feels uncomfortable. But I felt warm when I started running about appears the most in her story. Next would be even though I am hungry, I can't just casually pick up things from the ground to eat. If it is a poisonous animal, it should be edible after getting rid its poisonous sac and its head. However, the more colorful a plant is, the more poisonous it is. You can't eat it at all, and if you got lost in a mountain for too long, then you should randomly find a direction and walk straight, breaking the mountains if one stands in your way, and dig a way out. However, it feels horrible to be buried alive, so be careful. Back then, my reaction was what the heck, as expected of the goddaughter and disciple of Adam. Exactly the same good and learned the exact same thing. To still be living like that, her life force must be really strong. Cough, looks like I went out of topic. At this moment, after a bit more coaxing, all kinds of half-true lies start spouting out from my mouth. There are even a bunch of historical examples of countries getting destroyed because of the bad judgment of its leader, causing the confused centaur to stare blankly. Look, Prince Clint from Iron City also came independently as an envoy to Vance at such a young age. I have seen that person. He might be young, but you really can't underestimate him in any aspect. It will be the youngsters' generation next. Do you intend for your family's Anya to lose at the starting line? Meniel, who is already in a daze after my words, stared at me dumbfounded. That, so if I put Anya with you, a suitable leader would be groomed? Of course that isn't it. I didn't say so much just to put this unlucky lass by my side, giving me more trouble. It is sufficient as long as you are willing to let her roam about. As for what happens next, I don't want to bother about it, and I can't bother anyway. I am the type who thinks the process is unimportant, only the ending matters. As long as the ending is good, there is no need to bother too much about what happens in the process. Since I have already coaxed him to this point, I might as well do it to the end. TL, the exact phrase for coax is? Which means a bit like fooling, but very very mild. Of course not. Suddenly, someone interrupts my speech on shirking responsibility. Of course you can. Lord Woomians is extremely skilled in teaching others. Even Big Sister Margaret praised him. He will definitely teach Anya properly. Suddenly, Annie walks through the door and promises him in an instant. Furthermore, the eyes that she looked at me with is sparkling. I didn't expect Uncle Lord Woomians to view me in such a manner. I always thought that you were unsatisfied with Annie. Annie is more motivated now. Meniel carefully assesses the city lord's successor, who had been praised to heavens, and is surprised to find that I wasn't lying. It is quite outrageous for a human who is yet to be 20 to reach the boundaries of a legend, and the fire phoenix which her body is charged with shows of her limitless potential. It is very possible that she wouldn't be just a normal legend after breaking through. To an experienced veteran like him, he knows that strength is the root of everything in this underground world where the weak serves as food for the strong. Annie's abnormal strength is the best proof. It is also the final straw that convinced old Meniel. Fine, I will pass Anya over to you all. She will be the best guarantee for our alliance. We, centaurs, always keep our promise. If you can deliver your promises, we will be your alliance forever. Anya grabs the right hand of the old centaur that is in the air. In the ancient centaur traditions, this is the symbol of an agreement being made. Yes, not just Lord Woomians, I will also share my experiences with Anya, and we will work together. Both of our people will become true friends. Then, she turns her head and leaves. Uncle Bones, I did well, right? Did I seem like a real city lord? Even if she didn't say it too loud, but from the gleeful look that Annie gazes at me with, I can sort of tell what she was trying to express. Share experiences, more like sharing how to land other people into trouble and how to act like a rascal. Fortunately, my mask prevents me from revealing my expressions, otherwise my whole face would be full of bitterness now. No matter how I put it, Anya is an ambassador in name. Now that we have made a friendly alliance with the other tribe, can I still reject her? Afterwards, I still have to fulfill the requirements of the agreement and turn this unlucky lass into a passable city lord. Seems like an impossible mission. Looks like I can only try to wash her brain with my necromancy. However, the centaurs of the grasslands are well known to be trustworthy. If we can earn an alliance mate that we can truly rely on because of this, this is also a great thing for Sulphur Mountain City. The only one who met misfortune because of this is probably just me, who is stuck with this hassle. Shot my own foot again, huh? It is hard to be a good person these days. Right, why didn't that unlucky lass fulfill her role as a lightning rod? Or maybe, I can use this to complain about her. Looking at the delighted Anya, looks like Anya's luck is really bad, if an accident were to happen. Before I even finished speaking, Meniel shakes his head. This is a symbol of the royalty of our tribe, the golden bloodline. While we are blessed with hidden powers within our bloodline, it also brings along a curse of misfortune. However, we have a treasure that brings luck. If Anya stays here, I will pass it to her so that her situation will improve. A treasure that brings luck? It is quite unbelievable just thinking about it. Alright, I'll admit that my heart wavered. If I have this, maybe my luck will get better, especially my luck with women. Fine, hand your grandniece to me. Oh, that's great. Lord Woomians, everyone says that you are gay and scary, but I didn't expect that you really are a good person. Hearing that she doesn't have to return to the grasslands, Anya is already pouncing around at one side happily like a little deer. Rage surges in me. Who just gotten another good man card? TL, good man card, greater than you are a good man. But WHO said that I am going to send him to the sulfur mines to dig sulfur. TL, sulfur is poisonous, good kids please don't imitate. By the side, Meniel nods his head, his face smiling cheerfully as though saying this is great, if he is gay then Anya will be safe. Although she is a centaur, there is too many perverts in this era. What safe? There is Baifan here. Alright. This kind of criticism should remain in my belly. Family scandals shouldn't be boasted about. Anyway, it will just get more complicated the more I try to explain. Do I still have to explain my sexual orientation? Shaking my head in frustration, looks like there will still be many days to come that I will have to refute the rumors. I can only pray that the old centaur doesn't like to gossip. Old Meniel expresses that he would be back after a few days to teach Anya their family's archer skills and prepares to take his leave. Seeing that, I immediately questions him. What about the treasure? Oh, the lucky horseshoes. Wait, I will take it off now. I am a little agitated. The legends that horseshoes can bring about fortune is already well known. To think that it would be secret treasure of the golden bloodline royalty of the centaurs. To be able to get hold of such a rare treasure, it can't be that my luck is turning about. Very quickly, the old centaur takes off 2 horseshoes and passes it to Anya. Lucky horseshoes / myth class equipment / effect, increases the user's luck dramatically. Oh, looks like it's a top tier good. You want to obtain luck? Remember to find a blacksmith to nail it on. Looking at this, I went silly. This is an equipment. You get it. Equipment must be equipped before it can be useful. Do you have hoofs? Congratulations for doing volunteer work. Actually, you can stop struggling already. There is no hope for your luck. Just give up. No wonder old Meniel gave these horseshoes, which are almost equal to a god equipment, to Anya so decisively. Although there is no requirement to equip, others are destined to only watch it. If you want to equip this toy, you must first find a nail to nail it onto your hoofs. Fine. Looking at the delighted centaur darting about while having to suffer the tease of the system, I am really getting more and more unlucky nowadays. The misfortunes keep coming in nowadays. Perhaps, the only good news that I heard these days is that Elisa was awake. When blazing pillars of inferno shooting into the heavens and a quiet flowing river of ice appeared, I, who was experienced in this field, was shocked. Using 2 conflicting power of elements as the core for the soul imprint, It is an act that defies common sense. However, what was even more inconceivable is that she actually succeeded, and it was a level far beyond the level of manipulating the elements, reaching into the level of rules, of the world, and the level of concepts. Of course, this is all good thing, but the concept itself makes one overthink. Marauder, is it? Why does it feel like its soul imprint is sided towards the Chaos faction? Looks her, she is still influenced by the blood of demons. The power which the soul imprint represents is usually related to the experience of the person in the past and his type of power. The imprints from the experts of the Order faction tend to side towards strengthening, control, solidifying and similar other rules. The shape it appears in tend to be a buff, such as Xuiti's steel heart, which makes his body as tough as steel, and Adam's indestructible phoenix, which allows him to never fall down permanently. Even my mark of justice and Margaret's corridor of time has the effect of strengthening a certain type of magic. It is different for the Chaos faction. They tend to distort or destroy the existing rules, and their offensive power tend to be extremely powerful. The rule of plague is basically a destruction of the rule of health. The rules which implements control over the elements is a destruction of the natural cycle of elements, and the rules of undead is the destruction of the rule of life and death. Elisa's the Marauder is even more so, breaking the concept of existence and possession. It is normal for it to appear on demons and undead. However, for it to appear on Elisa, who serves as a law enforcer, it is hard to tell whether it is a good thing. However, I feel that this rule is very powerful. It is a little similar with Adang. As long as it is power that complements it and the physical body is able to take it, it is able to steal it. As long as the user accumulates to a certain level, it is definitely a very powerful source of power. However, if the user were to steal randomly as he wishes, causing his attribute of his power to become scattered, it might not be a good thing too. Thus, I requested Elisa to not use this power casually. She agreed immediately, but somehow, I felt that something was amiss. Rank advancement makes the recovery of the body hasten significantly. The second day after she awakes, she requested to remain to the team. Looking at the terrifying pile of work and official letters sent by Sulphur Mountain City, I did a few basic examinations on her, and after confirming that her health is good to an outrageous point, I approved of her return. Just like previous days, she served as my assistant and head of intelligence coldly and efficiently, but totally no change at all. That is wrong. That calm look makes one feel like she is scheming something. Maybe it is that I have been tricked so many times that I have become paranoid, but there is basis for my guess. Soul imprint is the crystallization of a person's past experiences and strength. It affects not only the one's strength, it will also imperceptibly affect one's personality. When Adam attained his infallible and indestructible phoenix, he became more stubborn and strong. My mark of justice allows me deal with things rationally in matters relating to the law. Margaret's corridor of time allows her to roam in history, becoming an onlooker of history and reality and not a participant, while Xuiti's steel heart is an obvious negative demonstration. Furthermore, this is for the milder Order faction. The changes should be much greater for the Chaos faction after forging their soul imprint. I expected changes to occur in Elisa, and changes should happen, but the change has still yet to appear. It feels like a heavy rock hanging in midair. There is bound to be a moment when it falls. However, it persistently remains up there, making one feel uneasy. But very quickly, I didn't have the attention to bother about it anymore. The auction is just ahead, and a savage war, from the moment when Eternal Night Scepter was brought into this city a month ago, was destined to happen. Chapter 55, Elf. The city of Platinum, which has a rich history, in this instant, is no longer as prosperous as it was before. The far-spreading inferno creeps across the streets full of history, swallowing everything it sets its sight on. In the eyes of the destroyers who have lost their sanity, the preciousness of these scars of history isn't worth a second look. In the sky, an army of dragons and demons were fighting. The eyes of the white-winged angel went red from all of the slaughter. Just like butchers, they were killing of the evil they see in front of them, even if they were still ordinary peasants the moment before. They are dead. They are all dead. The High Priestess Kaja has been assassinated. The Dark Elves have all gone mad. They are killing everyone in sight. Why are there gold dragons and angels in the underground world? Are the Order gods getting rid of us, or is the army from the surface invading us? The Beastmen army has entered the city. They have started fighting with the Dark Elves. There is not a trace of the peaceful events of yesterday. Countless beacons of war have been ignited and the 1,000-year-old ancient city is on the brink of destruction. To tell the story, I must start from the auction, which is bound to end in war. 4 in the morning, the auction, which was supposed to be conducted in the Platinum Chapel, has changed its location at the last moment. No other reason. The chapel, which has a capacity of 10,000 people, was too small for the number of people attending the auction this time. Due to the condition I listed in my contract that everyone is allowed to attend the auction, before 3 in the morning, the chapel where the auction is supposed to held at 12 is already overcrowded. Thus, there was no choice but to change the location of the auction. Considering that the new location for the auction should be wide, they chose the location which the auction house normally used. There is a large basin there where the edges cannot be seen from the center. It is definitely wide enough. It is impossible for the auction to end peacefully. Since the Alliance Conference has ended, the restrictive rule of not allowing fights to occur in the period of the conference has been annulled. Fence is a neutral zone that restricts fighting. I'm sorry, but if it wasn't for the balance in power and that the powerful factions are wary of each other, this city is a natural location where others would fight for. In reality, everyone knows that no matter who manages to win the auction for the god equipment, it would be snatched on the spot. Without power and influence that is able to suppress everyone, they are definitely unable to take it away. However, humans are born greedy and everyone still believe in luck somehow. Aren't all the novels about the legendary knights all written in such a way? Perhaps, during the fight for the god equipment, it might just fall in front of me. Afterwards, I might be able to decipher its secret and not long later, ascend as the next undead emperor of Zayuo Empire, marry a beautiful and rich wife and walking to the pinnacle of life. Just the thought of it makes one agitated. This kind of thought is whirling around everyone's mind. Those are quite a few who, thinking they are strong enough and blessed with good luck, couldn't resist the temptation of trying their luck to earn a bargain on the spot. It is said that when the auction began that day, the entire field has been blocked to not even allow water to pass through. The few items in front may be all rare treasures, but no one paid them any heed. In fact, under the threatening gaze of tens of thousands of experts, no one dared to bid for them, causing them to be passed immediately. Why would I say that it is said? Stepping into a hole that I dug myself would seriously be foolish. Not only did I not go, I even strictly ordered all of my subordinates to not go to the auction. At the same time, I heightened the wariness around the base and activated everything that could improve our defenses. Everyone was equipped in their armor, ready for battle anytime. Why? I am thinking too much? Actually, it isn't excessive at all. Under normal circumstances, there should be only an owner in each city. Only this way will the citizens and army know where they belong to. However, in this city, there is at least 4 cores. It might be a multiracial city but different from Sulphur Mountain City. The different races aren't governed under the same laws and governance to promote mutual trust and coexistence. In this city, Dark Elves are Dark Elves, Beastmen are Beastmen and humans are humans. Their habits and even the districts they live in are totally different. Naturally, the autarchs govern their own districts. If one were to walk to other district at night and they were killed or robbed, in the eyes of others, this is perfectly natural. The person who deserved it. This isn't right at all. This excessive segregation made the idea of a multiracial society pointless. On the contrary, due to the rumors that were blown big that promotes discrimination and misunderstanding, the fracture between different races just keeps getting deeper. When I first arrived at this city, I realized that there was something amiss with the situation. A legendary ancient city with 10,000 years of history may sound amazing, but if they had lived separated like that with friction constantly occurring among different groups, wouldn't that also mean an accumulation of 10,000 years of resentment? The countless infighting and even destruction of this city throughout history has ascertained my guesses. The structure of this city has doomed it into a cycle of accumulating resentment, venting of resentment and rebuild. Right now, when all 4 autarchs are gathered here, the debate and even fighting over the interests of their races in the alliance have caused sufficient resentment to build up. What is left is just an igniter. And I just had to deliver the Eternal Night Scepter at this moment. Alright, I admit that it was a suicidal move, but that there would be such circumstances under the image of a beautiful and harmonious city. If the scepter is the reason for the fighting, then when the observer agents who brought back the igniter, the reason for the war, when the war finally breaks out, I felt even more helpless. Just after the auction is concluded, the fool that paid 10,000 gold coin was split into 13 pieces and everyone broke out in a fight. At that moment, a fire angel threw his sword, but it was deflected by a Taran master smither. The blazing god's sword ended up being rebounded towards the dark elf matriarch, frightening her. The matriarch is dead, but that shouldn't be enough for the situation to escalate to such a level that they would go all out in a war. Isn't Kaji overdoing it like that? No. The one who died isn't Luciana Sven from Morspblight City. She immediately tried to pull a person beside her to serve as a barrier block the attack. Back then, it was completely chaotic and the matriarchs are all priestess who have slow reaction. In the end, she really succeeded. Pooh, which fellow is so unlucky? TL, the sound of bursting into laughter. High Priestess Kaja. Her heart was pierced directly. She died to the point she cannot be even more dead. She returned to Lorsai's embrace in an instant. If I were to take off my mask now, it would definitely be a expression. The supreme leader of the Dark Elves in name, Lorsai's secret child, died just like that? In such a ridiculous manner? Impossible. I have already warned her not to go to the location. My shocked mutterings stopped halfway. I did warn my allies that there would be danger there. But if they were to listen to my advice, that would be unbelievable as well. How did this happen? Is her luck really that bad? Is she destined to die as a foot soldier? My mutterings to myself was treated as a question by the elf spy in front of me. She nods her head. Lord, in order to ensure her safety in the chaos, Kaja brought out the semi-god weapon that Lorsai passed down, the 9 serpent spear. However, the god of misfortune never turns the other way just because of a person's social standing. The powerful high priestess would actually meet with such misfortune. Afterward, there were people who recognized that spear and quite a few people started to fight over it. There were a lot who died because of it as well. I was dumbfounded. This is simply too effective. I expected that there would be chaos, but Kaja's sudden death caused the chaos to plunge into a large-scale war. The sudden death of an underground autarch, especially the secret child of Lorsai who the Dark Elves worship. Following the traditions of the Dark Elves and Lorsai's past history, if there weren't sufficient blood tributes, Lorsai's rage would hit everyone and the Dark Elf matriarchs don't have the kindness in them to wait for God's punishment just not to sacrifice innocent people. Thinking about this, I shivered. The Dark Elves are one of the main races of the underground world. There is at least a few 100,000 in Vance. What if all of them were to go mad at once? Probably after the catastrophe, there isn't even a need for Vance to be rebuilt. Lord? Is there something else? It's like this. Luciana Sven has caused Kaja's death, so Lorsai sent the curse to change all Sven priestesses into spiders. The first family of Morspblight City is wavering, empty on both inside and on the surface. You are saying Victoria, Victoria.Sven? At this moment, Elisa walks out from my back. Yes, Master. Victoria has sent me a request. Right now, she is probably the only Lorsai priestess in the Sven family in Morspblight that is still in elf form. Following the traditions of Dark Elf and the rules of Lorsai, she should be able to be promoted to a matriarch straight. Thus, Victoria hopes to gain Sulphur Mountain City's support in helping her gain control of Morspblight City. Of course, she made a lot of promises in exchange and these promises are quite attractive. What do you think, Master? Based on what Elisa said, as long as we are willing to send a fixed amount of fighting power to support her, then we would be able to obtain a city that is close to Sulphur Mountain City. I have no reasons to reject her request, but instead, I fell into deep thoughts. I am really starting to hesitate. What that made me hesitate isn't the matter in front of me. Kaja is dead and Victoria is starting to ascend up the ranks. Is this the trace of history? Can the rise of the Dark Elf Queen unpreventable? This is the supposed flow of history? It can't be that the wings of the butterfly are going to be corrected by history again? Are my efforts destined to end in vain? If everything ends up back to its starting point, then what is the use of my plans? In an instant, a sense of weariness starts to arise from the depths of my soul, making one feel despair, not wanting to do anything at all. Lord? But, A warm and caring voice brings back my sanity. It was rare for Elisa to show such a worried expression. After being together for so long, it is her first time seeing her overly energetic master showing such a tired look. That was dangerous. Too dangerous. Undead depend on their lingering will to remain in this world. My greatest will is to change that darn fate. That kind of state is really too dangerous. It would be ridiculous if I end up going to heaven just like that. I shake my head and dispel my other thoughts. I know that I accidentally pushed myself to a corner again. I am just overthinking it. History has already been changed. No matter what, Victoria has started late and her personality is much milder than how it was in history. The personality would determine her future fate. She is destined to be different from the Victoria in history. Furthermore, even with my support, it is impossible for her to gain control of the entire Dark Elf tribe within 10 years. Maybe, it is just that Victoria is fated to not live an ordinary life. If so, then having an elf matriarch that is close to Sulphur Mountain City and perhaps, a dark elf queen who would make peace with the surface, no matter how I look at it, is a good thing. Thus, I nod my head in agreement. Accept her request. Send a few people to take over the remaining power of this fan matriarch. Try your best to take over, but retreat immediately if you all meet with danger. After this incident, send a group to help her gain authority in Morseblight City. Right, give this note to her. Thus, I quickly wrote a letter and passed it to Elisa. It isn't some incredible plan within a pouch but a double insurance against a certain someone. Actually, there are some things which isn't easy to say and not up to me to say. But, if I don't say it, I will be really worried about your future. You were turned into a female due to God's punishment. As a priestess, you should know that a God's punishment represents the will of the God. If the offender were to dispel the punishment, then that would be like slapping on the face of the true God. You should know that Lorsai was never a forgiving goddess. There's no benefit in saying more, so take care. Everyone knows how much Victoria wanted the belt of Edwina. Even if Victoria seems like a nice person, but the hard reputation of Dark Elves and Lorsai's priestesses made them wary of her, even if she is still underage. So, for the sake of Crow's safety, I better prepare an insurance. This way, for fear of enraging a true god, Victoria should try to suppress the desire in her heart. Of course, things are never coincidental that everything I want would come. The message on the note may be all true, but when putting all of it together, it makes a big lie. God's punishment is indeed related to the reputation of a true god. If you were to dispel a god's punishment of a god punishing an evil sinner, you might just end up getting struck by lightning the next moment. However, Lorsai's situation is quite unique. Other true gods are careful with the god's punishment, for fear it might hurt the innocent. However, Lorsai often showcases her might in Dark Elf cities, and there are multiple times when she sent an incarnation down. She also imposes God's punishment quite frequently, that it is just like a thunderstorm in summer. It comes randomly, and after the rain would be sunshine. When everything goes back to normal, a person receiving God's punishment can no longer be considered a news. Given Lorsai's busy schedule and leaving her traces, she might have long forgotten how many people she has punished. Personally, I think that even if the god's punishment were to be dispelled, she might not even notice. So saying that dispelling God's punishment will bring about her anger is true. Lorsai not being a forgiving goddess is also the truth. It is just that I forgot to add in a line saying that the situation with Lorsai is unique, so it turned into a big fat lie. This is a linguistic technique that I learned from those scammer in the underground prison. I don't think that Victoria is able to see past my lies. For a priestess, the will of the god is just like the sky. It may seem not far away, being able to see it just by looking up. However, it is something that cannot be approached. She knows the significance of the god's punishment and what would happen if it is dispelled. There is not a single book of the teachings of a true god that would teach you how to dispel God's punishment, or what would you meet with after dispelling it. After all, it would be blasphemy. Fine, I am also doing it for her good. For her who is intending to return to the Dark Elves to spend his days, it is definitely a good thing. After all, male Dark Elves are no different from slaves in their society. In order for them not to end up killing each other, for there to be a good ending, it has been tough on me, their superior. I think I should present myself with a plaque, the 10 good boss who moved Sulphur Mountain City. Just a while after Elisa's departure, A voice of a delighted female and the depressed sigh of males could be heard from the windows. After that, I took the chance to fix the content of the lecture next week, discussing the importance of normal sexual orientation to the development of the society. When the world outside is plunged into chaos, I was busy on my office desk. Countless reports were passed to me through Elisa, waiting for me to make the final judgment. The dark elves who have lost the daughter of Lorsai have gone mad. They are urgently trying to obtain more souls and fresh blood so that they can avoid God's punishment, so it is impossible for to remember our alliance. Also, the Dragon Queen and Lion King who has been savagely attacked by us won't let us get away scot-free. The chaos will soon spread throughout the entire city, so get everyone to prepare. For the sake of our position as an autarch for the next decade, not only must we win this war, we must do it beautifully. When I finally made my judgment on the oncoming war, I nodded my head towards the secret weapons in the room, so that they can prepare themselves. Just when I was about to get prepared myself, I suddenly recall a treasure that I have neglected before. Right, what about Kaja's corpse? Yes, that treasure is Kaja's corpse. To a necromancer, the corpse of an expert is an excellent material. Furthermore, the physical body of Kaja, the daughter of Lorsai, is flowing the blood of a true god, making it a treasure among treasures. If I can obtain this half-god body, different from the semi-god realm, I have the confidence of creating an undead lord that wouldn't lose to any of the other original sins. However, the observer spy shakes his head. The corpse has disappeared. The dark elves are searching frantically, but there were totally no traces of it. It is as though the corpse has walked out by itself. A corpse can walk? Bullshit. Wait, it could be possible. Isn't what I want to do now making a corpse move by itself? There is more than one undead lord in Vance now. If it is the other lower ranked undead senators, they would only waste this hard to come by half-god body. However, there is an undead senator who hasn't appeared recently. Furthermore, she has been wanting to attain a perfect physical body of an elf. The third senator, Queen of Banshees Harlois. This is going to be troublesome. The placing of the undead senators is dependent on their strength. However, the top 3 is on a whole new level than the others. There are even people who say that the rest are just there to fill up the numbers, so that the first 3 won't be so striking. Among Emperor Young Eye's subordinate, Graia is able to rise to the position of the 4th senator, but it is impossible for her to advance any further. That is because those above her in the rankings are colleagues. Their relationship with the Emperor is a partnership rather than subordinates. Just this point itself is enough to prove how extraordinary these 3 undead lords are. Also, from their history, they are all seniors of the Emperor. Of them, the 3rd Senator Queen of Banshees Harlois is once the princess of an ancient elf kingdom. It is not the elf kingdoms that are fractured into small countries by the descendants, but one during the era of elves, the ruler of the supreme kingdom that rules over 70% of the continent by itself. She is also known as the Omniscient One, a praise directed towards her vast understanding in the field of magic. Also, the only reason why she is ranked 3rd is because the physical body she was using before was destroyed in the undead calamity before, and she wasn't willing to find an ordinary body to replace it, so she could only make do with the 3rd. If she were to really get hold of Kaja's body, the rankings would probably have to be reshuffled. Yes, half a month ago, there were quite a few people who remarked that they have heard the epic ballad by the ancient elves, The Sunset of the Gods, but they couldn't find the singer. That is her trademark, so people started guessing that the Queen of Banshees is here. That's why I said that despite 6 undead senators have arrived, only 5 have appeared. Yeah, if it is her then it would really be troublesome. She is not easy to deal with. My mumblings were acknowledged by the elf observer in front of me. Yeah, she is indeed known to be smart, wise, strong, charming. Wait, how do you know the song is called Sunset of the Gods? That should be the language of ancient elf. There isn't more than a handful in the entire Reich that can understand it. My query made the elf spy in front of me smile. She slowly takes off the mask on her face. It is a very familiar face, so familiar that I just seen it 2 days ago. The white skin of the high elves started turning black and the red hair started changing into a silver-white color unique to dark elves. The face that belongs to Kaja seems even more mature and confident than previously. The slightly raised eyebrows on her face gives a feeling of elf arrogance and pride, just like a queen who was born with everything. the right to look down on everything else on birth. Yo, long time no see, little young I. How have you been? Okay, I'm gonna just leave all my writing below. So to clarify some content, they were written previously but just to jot memory. There are Order Dragons and Chaos Dragon. The Chaos Dragons are the Elemental Dragon while the Order Dragons are the Metal Dragons. Currently, they don't really belong to any faction due to a peace pact. The senators' ranking are determined by their strength. The top 3 are so strong that Emperor Young I can only be of equal standing to them, as comrades, rather than subordinate. Incredible plan within a pouch, greater than reference to Liu Bang, which his strategist gave him 3 pouches which he is supposed to open in times of crisis and it would help tide him over it. After the rain would be sunshine, greater than not very explicit, but it refers to lore size mood. And Wu, one of my favorite character in the novel just appeared. Chapter 56, Capture. Looking at the elf in front of me, I understood what was happening in an instant. Why did Spider Queen lore size High Priestess suddenly die of an accident and why Harl Ois, despite already being in Vance, didn't appear? Looks like she has set her eyes on Kaja's physical body from the very start. There is also a 99% chance that Kaja's supposed accidental death was caused by her. Hey, not even greeting your teacher when meeting her? Yes, the person in front of me, in a certain sense, is my teacher in necromancy and ice magic. Of course, she had a motive in imparting her teachings to me. The senators are actually the warlords of the Ziluo Empire. Graya of the royalty faction might have taken the 4th place, but no one believes that there is only a step away between the 3rd senator and the 4th senator. The 2nd senator Feynman is a rather ancient king of Lich. There are innumerable Liches under him and the Council of Dark Knights that were formed by the Liches under his control is the leading faction of the Ziluo Empire. In history, he led the Undead Lich Alliance to open the gates to the dimensions of death, causing an undead calamity that swept the entire continent. The 1st senator, Ancient Bone Dragon Grucasio, was once a mount for the god of holy light and his most trusted subordinate. Now, his individual strength cannot be calculated because he is too lazy to move and that there is no one that is able to pressure him to move. However, from the fact that Feynman chose to obediently remain as number 2, he is definitely in existence above the other senators. The 3rd senator's circumstances are unique. There is indeed a group of banshees under her, giving her the title of the Queen of Banshees. But, she doesn't really interfere in their affairs and she isn't interested in authority either. Her only goal is vengeance. Yes, vengeance, just like me. As it is too far back, other than the academics who specialize in the history of ancient elves, there's probably no one who is sure how the ancient elf kingdom which dominated the continent was destroyed. However, looking from how the elf gods were destroyed and the order gods rose in power, there is probably a lot to do with the order gods. Back then, the me who was wholeheartedly aiming to exact vengeance on the Church of Holy Light got along well with her instantly. Not only did she impart me vast knowledge on magic, she is also one of the founders for the Young I Alliance army. At least, without a veteran like her linking the bridges, the me who just came out probably won't be able to gather so many 1,000-year-old monsters, and I probably won't be able to keep them in check either. Back then, the first 3 senators were only in a partnership with me. There are other 4 unlucky fellows too who died in the infighting, and if it wasn't for the system which allowed me to break through to become the only semi-god undead emperor in recent times, I would probably just be a puppet emperor. High-tier undead are a stubborn life form which is driven by their lingering will. My will is to change fate while Harloy's only wish is revenge against the order gods. 100 years ago, she almost succeeded in her aim. If all of the living were to die and an empire of undead were to be established, the cycle of reincarnation of Ike continent would be broken and that would be the best revenge against the order gods. Perhaps, there may be even a few guardian gods who will fall because of this. Back then, she was nagging beside me on how to destroy the churches of the gods, how to sully the reputation of the Holy Light Church, how to convert the living into undead and how to make true gods lose their faith. Fine, I learnt from Death God a year afterwards that if I really proceeded on with it, the gods will risk everything to descend to the mortal world to destroy me. There is a 100% possibility then for my physical body to be reduced to ashes and my soul destroyed completely. Perhaps, the one who took the destruction of the Young I army the worst is her. After all, This is the first time she came so close to success in thousands of years. I don't think that she is able to change. If she changed, she would have long ascended to the heavens and be reincarnated. I don't think that the little tricks I played would be able to fool her. This time, since she came to find me, there are only two possibilities. One is to settle the scores with me, while the other is to force me to continue our rebellion. Based on my understanding of her, there is a 90% possibility that she would make use of the difference in our strength to beat me to the brink of death. Then, she will take control of me and make use of my name to reorganize the entire Zayuo Empire. And I would be unable to accept both of these scenarios. Thus, my first reaction upon seeing her isn't drinking tea and chatting like when old friends meet once again, but instead, Adam, come out to beat this one is a little tough. Fine, I really shouted it out loud. I have never been so glad. Yesterday, finding the opponents too strong and that our fighting prowess was insufficient, I called for support from Sulphur Mountain City, asking Adam to sneak in to serve as my hidden ace. I am even more glad that he only arrived this morning, making it impossible for the news to leak. Listening to my call, the smiling Harlois suddenly stuns. Then, she disappears all of a sudden. A black metal longsword drives into the space where she was at earlier. If she was just slower by a split second, she would have ended up stabbed. The secret weapon. Adam takes off his mantle. Facing the escaping Queen of Banshees, his playfulness on his face is replaced with his rare serious look. After closing his eyes for a few seconds, he suddenly points his sword downwards and taps lightly on the floor. Kaka. The entire space seems to become like a spider web, like shattered glass. When the space was cut by the will of an expert, vaguely, gaps in space starts to open. The next moment, a shout of agony could be heard from the corridor. Ah, damn it! Without any hesitation, bam, Adam rushes through the wall and swings his sword towards where he heard a voice. Incantation of law, judgment. Incantation of law, restriction of freedom. As I expected, Harlois, who just committed murder, is instantly shrouded by red light. Then, the effect on the restriction of movement takes effect. Due to the great disparity in power, the restriction can only be sustained for a short instant. But, an instant is enough. I know that someone won't waste the opportunity I created. Ah! A flash of blade in the right arm of the dark elf flies away along with blood and flesh. However, the long sword was stopped by the body, which turned metallic. Ah! The piercing scream continues, but this time, it is an attack by the Banshee. The sound wave that brought along a dark mana with it, the scream of Siren, which is known as the scariest death magic, didn't have any effect on us. I am already dead, and the indestructible Adam wouldn't fear the calling of death by the Queen of Banshees. He charges straight at the scream filled with negative energy, and as though ignoring his opponent, he closes his eyes and started to recite some words. A century passes in an instant. Nothing is constant. Companions depart, only I continue existing. The cycle of the withering and blooming of flowers repeat every year. I only pray that I die in the midst of a bed flowers, remembering the past in a semi-drunk state. The severance of the river of time. After obtaining the old Eastern philosophy culture of a foreign world from me and a local book on philosophy and secrets of space-time from Margaret, in a span of 100 years of refining, Adam's techniques have started to become one with his life, becoming a kind of philosophy of himself. Perhaps, this is the basis of how he managed to enter the semi-god realm with the body of a mortal. Right now, as the semi-god warrior recites the words to hypnotize himself, the severance of the river of time laments the seemingly slow flow of time broke the boundaries of space and time, making the slash seem slow yet fast. No. Speed is already meaningless for this slash. Just like how no one is able to avoid the aging from the flow of time, everyone is equal under this sword, there is no way to avoid it. In fact, under this dreamlike sword, they would instinctively stare at the sword, being unable to avert their eyes and get slashed obediently. A normal longsword that could be bought with half a gold coin brought about a mysterious pink glow and elegance. It seems like the dazzling smile of a drunk beauty among peach blossoms, attracting everyone's attention. So beautiful. No. Even if it is the Queen of Banshees who have survived countless fall and rise of eras, she still fell for the technique in that instant. However, in the next moment, she woke up. What is so beautiful about that broken sword? However, when Harlois's attention was attracted in that instant, The conclusion was already decided. The longsword cuts through the waist. The Queen of Banshee Harlois couldn't resist the slash whatsoever. The newly revived physical body was cut into two and a pale white soul starts to leave the body, intending to escape. Incantation of law, restriction of freedom. Alright, the perpetrator, without doubt, is the soul of the Queen of Banshees. Thus, she is forced back into that incomplete body. Then, her heart, which already has a hole on it, is pierced once again by a long sword. Kaj's upper body is fixed onto the ground. At this moment, I heaved a sigh of relief. If it wasn't for Adam secretly sneaking into the camp, I might have been dead by now. Fortunately, she just obtained the physical body and hasn't synchronized it perfectly. In this state, she is even weaker than her soul state. Otherwise, even Adam, who is an entire rank stronger than her, would be unable to take her down easily. You actually dare to treat me like that? You actually dare to kill your mentor? Firstly, you aren't dead. Can a 1,000-year-old disaster die? I'm sorry, it should be 10,000. Or is it 100,000? Million? Auntie, I accidentally forgot your real age. As for killing mentors, isn't it the tradition of our bloodline? Harlois is speechless in an instant. Back then, she was telling me gleefully about some past events, about how she managed to dupe the great Saint Cecily's trust, and after obtaining the magic knowledge from the other party, she killed her mentor to obtain her flesh. Alarms are ringing and people would be coming soon. Kaj's corpse being here won't be easy to explain. I whip out a small bottle. It is a commonly seen tool in necromancy, specially used to trap soul body. Soul sealing bottle. You can't treat me like that. I am the Queen of Banshees, not an inferior dumb wraith. Of course I can. Come, go in obediently. Looking at the struggling soul body in the bottle, I am so happy that I felt like singing. This time, I really got a big bargain. From the way she operates, she probably found me a long time ago, but she continued to investigate secretly to make sure that there are no powerful fighters around me before moving out personally. After attaining her ideal body, she got complacent and thought that she could get rid of my steadily. Thus she appeared in her weakest state. Not only did she not do a secret assault as she would usually, she even insulted me directly. If she thought that her power wasn't sufficient and took over the body of the people around me to give me a sudden blow, that would truly be a disaster. Right, Roland, I think I am in love again. Who is that girl? She is so gentle and she has such a sweet smile. Adam's sudden words scared me out of my wits. I shake my head, already used to it. Adam's crushes come several times every spring and he has been teased by us for having an animal's mating season. But, if he were to really pursue it seriously, most of it ends in tragedy. No, ignoring the scenario where it ends in a farce, if the other party ends up really is interested in him and wants to date for real, this fellow would back away the last moment. Don't harm the lady. Which one? However, there has been too much vexing matters recently, so looking at Adam ending in tragedy could help change my mood. Following Adam's finger, I looked out of the window. Then, I smiled. Should I say as expected of Adam? His choice in people is really excellent. As expected of our city lord. That is the top 2 beauties under my command. Rest easy, we have been brothers for many years. No matter which one you like, I will support you. Really? You aren't having a fever? You actually aren't trying to trick me? Adam's happiness made me harden my will to continue luring him into the trap. Rest easy. Have I ever tricked you? I can't even remember the exact times now. You really aren't tricking me this time? It can't be that they have a boyfriend. They won't be like that lesbian Lily you introduced last time, right? TL, the lily used here is the flower. Ignoring that look of deep resentment, I was surprised that a single-cell organism would have such a good memory. After a light cough, I honestly spoke the truth. They don't have boyfriends and their sexuality are normal. Relax, I am not lying. You didn't lie at all. Then, thanks. The dumb fellow's intuition has been quite sharp. However, towards a truthful lie, it is useless. Alright, an hour later, I hear the long-awaited shout of agony. I will never believe in love again. I feel my mood lifting. I didn't lie. Victoria and Crows are really the most beautiful people under my command. Besides, they definitely aren't engaged and they aren't gay. Undead Emperor, greater than semi-god undead lord, greater than myth chapter 57, a condition. In Vance City, Beacons of war were lit up all around the city. For the god equipment, as well as for great power and for absolute authority, the experts who were usually noble and reticent were all involved in the chaos. Kings, gentlemen, scholars, saints, and even powerful hermits. In this moment, they are all slaughtering one another as though a bunch of mad dogs. On the other side, due to the assassination of Lorsai's high priestess, more than 20 matriarchs have brought their army and started to collect fresh blood. However, the most confusing of them all is the disappearance of the one who is at the core of the problems, the beastman Sovereign Shu. I don't think that new Iod Shu who has been with the scepter for extended periods of time can resist its temptation. After a month with it, his soul already belongs to the scepter. Not to mention, the whispers of the devils linger in his ears. There is no way he could let go of it, and the mastermind controlling him from the back wouldn't allow it anyway. At most, he could only be viewing the situation by the side, waiting for an opportune moment to strike and win himself the greatest benefits. At this moment, due to the unexpected situation of the Queen of Banshees killing Kaja, the situation is developing out of my control. The deaths of those fellows fighting over the scepter aren't pitiable. After all, they themselves allowed greed to blind them. Since they wanted to obtain the god equipment, they should have been mentally prepared for the possibility of death. Besides, there is too many powerful figures and experts vying over the scepter. With saints all over the place, I couldn't interfere even if I wanted to. But I can't ignore the Dark Elves. Victoria came back in Nawal right after she went out. There is no need to collect the troops left behind by the Sven matriarch. All of the warriors and those following the party have been torn apart by the other matriarch to serve as fresh blood tributes to appease Lorsai's anger. Even so, they still found the tributes insufficient. Chaos is something contagious and resentment is something inheritable. The Dark Elves will choose to sacrifice those of the other tribes first to appease Lorsai's anger with bloodshed. When they really begin on their slaughter, the hatred that has been accumulating in Vance for many years will explode all at once. The ending will surely be a genocide and a destructive riot. In my hands, there is indeed an ace that is able to suppress them. God equipment, origin of Codex, faith in law. 557,99,999, the belief from 1,000 people in a week allows it to increase by 1 point every week, and the cap is 50 points every month. When the points reach the maximum, it will automatically replicate a semi-god equipment, scattered page of Codex. Effect 1, the Land of Law, passive. In the heart of the city where it is placed, the entire city will become a land of law, and in the area where its effect is active, enforcers can wield the power of law. Effect 2, Great Judgment, active, requires 100 faith and law to activate, and consumes 1 point every minute after activation. After the user activates it, everyone in the city will be cast with a legend rank level judgment spell and be judged on their actions in the last 3 hours. If guilty, their freedom will be restricted and debuffs such as intangible cuffs and weapon seal will be inflicted on them. In the Great Judgment, the effects of the enforcer's incantation of law will be multiplied several folds and their power ranking will be increased by 1. The requirements for usage: the laws in the city are in chaos, criminals are doing as they please, and the city is on the verge of destruction. Effect 3, all is equal in the face of law. Demarcate a zone and lower the rank and stats of people within the zone to be of the equal level as the user. Duration, 10 seconds. Requires 1 faith and law to activate. Effect 4, sinners will be judged. Active, activate Great Judgment towards a single target, cleansing him of all his sins through the judgment. Requirement, the target must be willing to undergo judgment. Seems very strong, but it still isn't insufficient. In Ike, God equipment tend to have God energy and God soul embedded within. This codex may represent the origin of the power of law, but without the support of a God of law, it is slightly inferior to other God equipment. Of course, it is still much stronger than any other semi-God equipment. The rumors of Eternal Night Scepter have become quite outrageous. Other than the nonsense I made up, there is a rumor that says that the secret and fragmented soul of an ancient malevolent god is hidden within, and Emperor Yang'ai is the only one to decipher it. Even worse, some say that the soul of Emperor Yang'ai is within and he will choose the most suitable person to be his successor. Fine, I finally understand what it means for a rumor to become more convincing the more it spreads. In the face of greed, people will try to correct any logical flaws in their mind. Now that Vance is on the brink of destruction, the conditions for great judgment has been fulfilled. It seems like we can replicate the quick actions taken in Chrome City previously, where the city was cleaned by over 100 temporary legends during the judgment. But I didn't want to do that. The situation may seem similar, but in actuality, it is entirely different. The Chrome City, which only has a few legends, is different from Vance, which had over 20 Dark Elf matriarchs and powerful accompanying guards. If we were to try to suppress them coldly like we did back then in Chrome City, we might not win even if we had an additional 300 temporary legends into our force. At the very least, half of our forces would be wiped in the battle. Besides, this is the dumbest course of action that we could take. Why? War is always born from politics. When considering whether to fight a war, we must remain practical and take interests into account. It might feel good to lower our blades on them, but if we were to kill over 20 elf matriarchs in one go, we would forge an irreconcilable grudge with the underground elves as well as Lorsai. This trade, which only brings hatred to us, is really not worth doing. It may seem to be a dead knot, giving us only the choice of either watch the city being wiped clean or to suppress them with bloodshed. However, it is my specialty to turn a cruel war into a farce, reversing tragedy with comedy. Stop struggling and enter. No, I am the noblest queen of banshees, not your pet. Keep away that milky white substance from me. You vile disciple, sex fiend, old bachelor. He, continue scolding as you please, your mouth is the only thing formidable about you now anyway. Wait until you enter. I will make sure that you feel so much pleasure that you feel like dying from it. Why ha ha ha. No, pervert, I am your mentor. It is because you are my mentor that there is joy in doing so. Why ha ha, resistance is futile. This is my territory, no one will save you no matter how you scream. Just surrender and serve me. Master. Hasty footsteps could be heard from the back. Then, the door opens and the anxious Elisa lifts the broom she is holding behind her back and smacks it violently onto my brain, pulling my rationality back from my excitement. Only viewing the situation within the room did the panting Elisa calm down. The loot scene that she was expecting didn't appear. She only saw a certain someone holding 2 test tubes and mixing the contents of the 2 together, seemingly trying to experiment with it. At this moment, she looks innocently at me. Why did you hit me? I'm sorry, Master. It is just that I happened to overhear your conversation and I thought that you were. I am doing serious work now. Wait, I had cast an isolation magic here, how did you hear it? It can't be that you installed a hearing device here. Let's not pursue a woman's secret. The young lady blinks her eyes in embarrassment, and the mischievous look she has on her face with her tongue stuck out is extremely cute. Being able to find her true self after breaking through into the legend realm is a good thing, but secret you had. Don't act cute at a time like this. At this moment, Elisa suddenly seems to be attracted to the butterfly knot on her tail and lowers her head, trying her best to feign ignorance. I started to reflect on whether I am too forgiving towards these juniors. However, thinking about what we were going to face and the heavy responsibility that is about to be entrusted to her, I suddenly lost my interest in pursuing the matter. Forget it. Your arrival is timely. There are some things that I want to brief you about first. After my plan activates and everything is successful, I'm afraid that there won't be much time left for us to interact. The inauspicious meaning of the words makes Elisa nervous. Master? But before briefing her, I look towards the struggling Harlois in the bottle and hesitates for a brief moment. In a certain sense, my plan will strike a fatal blow into the core of the Order gods, so it should be aligned to her goals. If I could get her to help, the success rate of the plan would be increased significantly. Don't underestimate Harlois just because she was caught so easily. Actually, I think of her as the hardest to deal with of all the undead lords. Knowledge is power and wisdom. In the face of the omniscient one Harlois, who has gone through countless eras, Margaret and I weren't even qualified to address ourselves as apprentices before her. The reason why we were able to successfully capture Harlois, 90% had to be attributed to her suicide tendency. If she wasn't too complacent after obtaining the body with a god's bloodline and immediately ran out to find me when the synchronization of her soul with her physical body wasn't completed yet, causing her to not even possess a third of the power she had when she was at the peak of her strength, if Adam, One of the strongest warriors in the world, didn't manage to catch her, a mage who was helpless in close combat, by surprise. If not for my assistance in restricting her movement, it definitely won't be an easy task to get hold of her. To say the truth, Adam and I had good teamwork and we have long attained the level where 1 plus 1 equals 3. With Adam serving as the main fighter and my support, I have the confidence to make even an avatar of a spellcaster class god kneel and submit to us. The fact that I was able to catch Harlois made me so happy that I got engrossed into playing my part and spouted some indecent lines which caused Elisa to come barging in. Just give it a try. If it doesn't work, you can always silence her. Thus, I started talking. All of this began with an agreement. That was back when I was still Emperor Yong-ai. By the river Styx, I made an agreement with Death God Ayor. The plan isn't very long or complicated, it took only 10 minutes for me to finish my piece. However, Harlois stopped me in my tracks multiple times to plead me to strengthen the anti-eavesdropping barrier and anti-spying magic. After the end of my story, the Queen of Banshees in the bottle seemed to have malfunctioned and could only repeatedly mutter the same few words as though a psycho. I didn't hear anything, haha, nothing at all. Hee, as expected of my disciple, really playing it big this time. Should I feel sentimental upon seeing my disciple being on the verge of surpassing me? Wait, something is wrong. Why are you telling me this? Are you finding a reason to get rid of me? However, if this plan succeeds, it seems that my vengeance would also be complete and there would be no reason for me to live. Should I rejoice? Elisa, after listening to the entire story solemnly, fell into silence. Master, to sacrifice so much, is it worth it? Of course it is worth it. There won't be any rewards if we don't sacrifice something in return. If we don't change anything, all that awaits this world is destruction and calamity. Personally, I think that there is still a lot of things in this world worth living for. Elisa lowers her head and became even more depressed. Selfish. I don't deny it. Bastard. True, sometimes I do find that I'm a bastard. Pervert. I would have to deny that. I don't have the conditions to be perverted. Just look at me, I am so poor that only bones remain. However, the motion of Elisa raising her head stopped my words. Her widened eyes stare fixedly at me, but the cold face she puts on usually is replaced with a wretched face full of tears, not a trace of her dignified appearance normally. Looking at the silent flow of tears, an ache in my chest makes me lower my head helplessly. Just like before, I carefully wiped the tears off the crybaby. I'm sorry. I don't need an apology. I'm really sorry. You villain, I said don't apologize. Woo you. My rare sincere apology was like a trigger, plunging this legend back into the times of her childhood, where she would just sit there, paralyzed, crying without a care. Cajoling little children has never been my expertise. I panicked. But very quickly, Elisa stops and with tearful face, she speaks of her request. Fine, I am willing to bear everything, but you must accept one condition to repay me. A condition? This is something that should not be accepted at all costs. Who knows what the other party would request of you? What if she requests for you to solo a demon prince? However, looking at the sobbing girl, I somehow nod in response to her request. Fine, as long as it doesn't go against my principle, no matter what condition you lay out, I will agree to it. Looking at her nodding her head, I heave a sigh of relief. However, somehow, the ache in my heart worsens. Thus, Master? Hugging the young lady lightly, I felt her familiar warmth and smell and I felt that my heartbeat which had stopped seemed to start beating again. I felt comforted. Undead may not have body warmth, but my rare gentleness made Elisa raise her head to stare at me. Just for a moment. It felt as though we had returned to the past, when she would happily look for reasons during thunderstorms to dive into that body that wasn't warm but yet comforting. Despite having grown up, the girl takes a half a step forward and allows me hug her tighter as she quietly makes her wish. Even now, is it still only kinship? Big brother Rolo, Master Roland, the next time we meet, I will become a good woman that you would be unable to ignore. Cough cough, this is really touching. But have you two forgotten that there is a third party here? Looks like it's another teacher-student relationship, seems like it is really in our heritage. Back then, if Cicely hadn't fallen in love with that wood elf bitch, I wouldn't have hardened my determination to kill her. Now that I think about it, Cicely's techniques were truly incredible. It was truly a pity that I did not retrieve her soul to make a doll. Without any hesitation, Harlois revealed her dark history as a lesbian while playing the role of an excessive third party. The usually thick-skinned Elisa, upon recalling the tears and laughter from a moment ago, lowers her head in embarrassment and quickly pushes me away. In that instant, the air stilled. No one will treat you as a mute if you remain quiet. Displeased, I glared at the soul inside the bottle. Upon seeing the delighted expression on the soul, I immediately knew that she had already made her decision. As expected of my disciple, playing quite a big game there. I will help you, but you must let me go first. Kaj's physical body can still be used after stapling it together. After all, you know of my strength. The reason why I failed this time was because of my carelessness. If I were to help you, the success rate of your plan will be much higher. I shake my head. Then, I lift another bottle up and look at it with a smile. The bottle is filled with a thick white-colored transparent fluid. I open the bottle and heartlessly pour it into the bottle with Harlois's soul. That is two separate matters. What I need the most now is countless numbers of Child of Greed. You should just obediently merge with the main body of Greed. Yes. That bottle of disgusting fluid is the main body of Greed and not that special secretion. My plan to turn this tragedy into a comedy is to reenact the play of the nude city. I don't believe that the Dark Elf matriarchs can continue on their rampage that way. Without their weapons and clothes, I doubt if they still possess sufficient strength to go against my enforcers. However, it would take a long period of preparation before my plan can get into action if I were to only use the main body of Greed to clone the children of Greed. Furthermore, this would potentially end in a great loss for me as well, and that will affect my future plans greatly. The original plan of using Great Judgment and Adam's presence to intimidate the Dark Elves would result in great losses on our side, and given the many negative after effects it will bring about afterward, it cannot be called an ideal solution. However, Harlois's sudden appearance gave me an additional choice. No one is able to compete with the Banshees, who wield the talent of possessing physical bodies, and controlling other people's physical body. The Queen of Banshees Harlois, despite having a blutomania which prevents her from using any physical bodies other than those of female elf royalty, her unparalleled ability in controlling physical bodies allow her to rapidly clone Child of Greed immediately after possessing the main body of Greed. It is also an easy task for her to control over 10,000 clones and limit the attacks to the enemies. TL, a blutomania, greater than obsession with cleanliness. No, disgusting. This thing is weird. The vitality of this soulless physical body is shockingly high. It holds too great an attraction towards my soul. I'm afraid that I will be unable to leave the body after possessing it. How can I help you if that happens? The reasoning of the Queen of Banshees sounds convincing, but I already have it all planned out. Rest easy, this is one of my prided creations, Greed of the Seven Deadly Sins. Its potential hasn't been unleashed yet. Later, I will help you fuse a bit of Kaj's god bloodline into it, allowing it to evolve into a complete body. I ensure that you will be very energetic, making you so happy that you won't even think about possessing other bodies. Right, it is better for the main body to retain human shape, right? Do you prefer lolly physique or a young mature lady physique? Forget it, since the fluid being is able to transmogrify, I will just add all of it in. TL, young mature lady, greater than as it means, a woman who dresses maturely, looks maturely, acts maturely despite being young. Your seven deadly sins? This slime is your undead creation? Save me. Someone is killing their mentor. Bastard, have you forgotten what pride did back then? You still dare to create undead even after that? It is impossible for her calls for help to leak out anyway, so I ignored it and continued with my work. Young mature woman, teenage girl, old lady. Wait, old lady seems to be a bit too strong a taste. I better delete it. Then, the hairstyle, hair color and clothes. It feels like playing a gal game. Hee, I feel quite excited. You disloyal disciple, I was blind to accept you back then. My greatest regret in my life is to teach you undead creation. Look at what kind of monsters you built. This time, you are even using me as an ingredient for it. What is this? Why is my color changing? Why would a soul have color? Continuing to ignore her, It was about time for the complete product to appear. I am melting. Why would a soul melt? What have you done? Death God above, why did you allow me to meet you? Why would the perfectly normal undead creation turn into something like that in your hands? TL, she is using the word old lady to refer to herself. It is what 30-40 gangster-like ladies, or crude, use to refer themselves to, especially when they are trying to intimidate someone. Maid costume, fallen angel maid costume, beast ear maid costume, standard English maid costume, robot teenage girl maid costume, extremely short H maid costume. Ah, my creative juices are burning. Stop doing weird stuff in my body, you bastard maid fetish. So warm, so comfortable. Wait, it can't be. How can undead have feelings? What did you do? Hee hee, are you happy? Proud? You are going to be my greatest creation. Let me think about what other maid costumes there are. Right, angel maid costume. Completely natural wings and the feeling of the flesh and feathers are completely identical. Perfect. Looking at her motivated master, Alisa knows that she can't stop him. After solemnly expressing her sympathy towards the dark elves, whom misfortune is going to fall on, and Harl Ois, who deserves to burn on a stake for over 10 times, she closed the door and leaves. She still needs some time to organize the information she just got hold of. At the same time, HMPH, I am not just a silly woman who will just wait obediently. You want to use the family car to dump me? Dream on. Alisa also has her own schemes and she has already started taking actions. In the slums beside the mines not too far from Vance, an eerie blood-red altar has been constructed on the chilly cliff where the dragon empress almost died. The locals there have become the tributes on the altar. Don't. That is my child. In the face of the heartless thugs, the workers of the mine tried to retaliate, but their actions are destined to end in vain. That's because those thugs are once their protectors and the master of this mine, the personal guards of the Beastman Sovereign. The single-eyed Lion King looks at the cries of despair below. The citizens who he protects are being sent to their doom. The Beastman Sovereign, reputed to the close with his people, looks at such a sight without a single expression on his face. But, among the crowd, a stubborn kobold male rushes out and shouts towards the Beastman Sovereign. Why? Lord Lion King, we pay your taxes and my nephew even died for you. Why? He couldn't continue his words. He has been forced to the ground by some soldiers carrying the insignia of a single eye. That soldier looks up towards the Lion King, as though asking for the opinion of his superior. On other days, to win the favor of his army, Shu knew I would take good care of the family of his soldiers. But now, ignoring the questioning look from his subordinate, the Lion King looks on without a single change in his expressions. The old soldier stuffs the mouth of the kobold and carries him to the altar. Bringing his blade down, a head rolls down and fresh blood splatters on the floor. Ha ha, you traitor! I will patiently wait for the day where you get abandoned by your people. You actually turn to the demons. This is the howling of an ex-ally. At this moment, the Dragon Queen only retains sufficient strength to howl. Her severely injured body is tied to the top of the altar. She is to be served as a super high tier tribute. There is no way the knowledgeable her would be unable to identify that this eerie blood-colored altar is a dimension gate leading to the lower realm where demons live. You came. Shu ignores his ex-ally. The only thing in his sight is his new ally who just arrived. Ainsterna.edu. The spatial distortion leading to Sulphur Mountain City has been prepared. Is your army ready yet? The ones who walked out from the Dimension Gate isn't just the bald and plump Hainsterna, but those who were Shu's enemy for a long time as well. Of course. However, correcting a point, from today onwards, they are your army. I am allied with Sulphur Mountain City and you are the mutual enemy of us. If you fail, hee hee, you know it. Hee hee, cunning devils. Betting on both sides again? Then, if Sulphur Mountain City is to be destroyed, then you will be my ally? Hee hee, as long as there are enough profits, we can be the allies of anyone, even if it is those foolish demons whose heads are filled with muscles. Ainsterna laughs to the point that the fat on his belly is trembling. He looks like a gleeful merchant who just finalized a big deal. Hee hee, haven't we been allies in the Underground Alliance all along? Actually, I have a good impression of that Woomians. He is exactly like a natural devil lord, but it is a pity that the new city lord of Sulphur Mountain City is also a human. The underground world only needs one human underground autarch. Having a second would be too dangerous. The two underground autarchs with their own plots smile as the other underground autarch who is treated as a tribute curses them. The cries of despair that accompany the tributes at their moment of death could be heard, even from the far distance. P.S. Still that the same phrase, Squirrel don't write tragedies. I am thankful for all your support. With the acknowledgement and support from everyone, Squirrel is able to maintain the motivation to continue writing this book. Isn't it good to write a relaxing story? Even if the world is filled with despair, but there is always a way out. The sun always comes out after a storm. There is always a solution to everything. One could always face everything smiling. Squirrel likes to write relaxing and interesting stories, so I hope everyone likes it too and will laugh cheerfully because of it. Chapter 58. Greed. That is an 8 to 9-year-old elf girl. Under a parasol, she sits in her small chair. The little girl's silky golden hair drifts along with the wind. While secretly giggling beneath her hands, she was tackling the lollipop in her hands with all of her strength. Her white skin looks just as smooth as milk and her cute princess skirt has pictures of little bats on it. Her pink and chubby face has a shy and sweet smile on it, reminiscent of a little angel which accidentally descended onto the mortal world. Noticing that I was looking at her, she immediately blushes red in embarrassment, but her pink tongue didn't stop its motion. Instead, just like a hungry cat secretly sipping on a bowl of milk, she hastens her action. It didn't take her long to digest over half of the lollipop. The eyes of onlookers might just see an innocent little girl secretly smiling due to the joy from licking her delicious lollipop. However, I only got goosebumps watching at the sight. What a cute girl. Master, where did you kidnap her from? Elisa has finally finished reorganizing her emotions, and just when she steps into the room, she saw this unfamiliar little girl and was curious. Your senior, the omniscient one, Harl Ois. I reply her with a blank face. All of her reports that she was holding in her hand falls to the floor. Then, she props up her glasses and starts to pick them up silently. Why don't you ask anything? Like, why did the old granny suddenly turn young, and where did Greed go? This overly calm reaction makes me curious instead. No, the moment that I think of the fact that she was your mentor, she probably plays in part in why you turned out like that. I suddenly felt like I could accept it no matter what kind of person she was. What does it mean that it was acceptable because she was my master? It sounds like I was hopeless and unreliable. When have you been reliable? When has anything that you got involved in ended up well? Stop guessing. I can't read minds and you didn't accidentally blurt it out. Even if you are wearing a mask, but when were you able to hide your emotions from me? It seems that you have forgotten that I have followed you for many decades. A venomous tongue as usual. Elisa, who seems to have regained her composure on the surface, lowers her head as much as possible to hide her swollen red eyes, and I, who was feigning ignorance of it, didn't know what to do. Fortunately, there is a fool that can't read the atmosphere by the side. This granny seems to finally recall that she is the third senator, the queen of banshees, and it is unbecoming of her to be licking on a lollipop like a little kid. She first hid her lollipop behind her, intending to dispose of it later, but then she felt that it was a waste, so noticing that we were still chatting, she immediately turns about and swallows the rest of the lollipop. Afterward, before she could even finish swallowing all of it, she turns around. Haha, my good disciple. I didn't expect your undead creation to have reached such mastery. Cough cough. To be capable of making undead regain their taste buds, wakaka. Cough cough cough. This body is really powerful. I can feel the god's bloodline circulating in my body. It is possible that I might even be stronger than when I was at my peak. Cough cough cough. I finally managed to spit it out. I almost died again. The wind created by magic lingers at her back, allowing her small physique to float slightly in the air. The words that she intentionally used an old and commanding tone to say, in the perspective of the listeners, didn't have a trace of dignity it should have. Other than the exceptionally innocent and cute voice of a kid, she choked on a lollipop just after saying a few arrogant words, and her continuous coughing were hilarious. I can understand the agitation of an undead who suddenly regained her taste buds, but it isn't correct for her to act cute like this. Not to mention, The thought of her being an old granny dispels every single thought of her being cute. So, I laughed. Wahaha, Elisa, look at her foolish look. Being of such an age yet choking on a lollipop. But I stopped after a few seconds of mocking her. That is because Elisa's gaze at me was full of sympathy, as though I was an infant that was laughing at someone despite not being much better. I can roughly get the message she was trying to express. You probably would need a mirror. Remember that time when you used too much lubricant so many times till you were unable to fix your bones together properly? Afterward, I had to use glue to help you stick them back on. Back then, you probably looked just as foolish. Fine, it isn't that I can read minds. Elisa has already said it out. Cough, Harlois. Just as I was trying to change the subject, Harlois interjected. Call me master. I am satisfied with this body and your plan interests me as well. So, I will consider this favor and I hold off the matter of expelling you. Shaking my head, I don't retort. It is just a name and besides, she has indeed taught me many things. If she is willing to continue being my mentor, then so be it. Fine, demon. Mentor, why did you turn into such a look? You have dozens of fixed looks for this physique, so you should be able to interchange between them easily. Maybe, it is your personal interest? You want to try to pretend to be young? Harlois sighs and shakes her head helplessly. It isn't that. This is my true look when I died. When the soul and physical body is aligned, it is easier to it for resonate and merge together. In order to allow my physical body and soul to completely merge, it is better for me to maintain this form temporarily. Speaking of it, you all are probably the only ones who know the existence of this look of mine. What? Hearing this, even me who knew her for a few centuries was flabbergasted. That is to say, this is the true look of the old demon granny's soul. Back then, when she turned into an undead, she looked so cute and innocent and she was just slightly bigger than this at her moment of death. What is there to be surprised about? Don't you know about it? Undead are the product of lingering will and curse. The more pure and noble the soul is, the more it will despair under the darkness of reality, the more the vicious the curse it gives out would be and the easier it would be for a strong undead to be born. Back then, you also, cough, let's not talk about excessive things. Right, what is the progress with the Dark Elves? I didn't want my history to be dug up and so, it was my turn to change the topic. Knowing that I don't want to talk about these past matters, Harlois shakes her head and raises her hand. Sand float in the air and congregate to form a fortress. In it, countless sandmen were moving freely and if one were to take a closer look, they would realize that they were no different from real people. In the fortress, there were innumerable sand groups that were chasing the sandmen. The moment they caught up, they would jump on it and merge together as one. When the sand group finally leaves, the sandmen would be left on the spot without any equipment or clothes and would simply lay there paralyzed. The potential of the child of greed is limitless. Just by evolving a little bit, its offensive power can be increased by at least 10 times. If you allow me to use my human form to control and organize them into different armies and have them complement one another, I can guarantee that it is a simple matter to gain control of this city. Child of Greed, Evolution. Race, half undead slimes. Stats, all 5. Race talent, equipment devour, fiber decomposing secretion, rapid regeneration, single elemental control, single elemental immunity, paralyzing venom, fluid transmogrification. System evaluation, I have nothing to say. If you want to destroy the world, just do it. If you don't want Jelly to be the only thing remaining in the entire world, then control her properly. The god's bloodline is extremely powerful. It may seem like there isn't much of a change with the Child of Greed, but the individual power of each and every one of them is at least 10 times stronger than before. Fluid transmogrification allows it to have extremely strong resistance against physical attacks and depending on its color and composition, the single elemental control and resistance grants it a certain level of ability to cast spells. In order to counter the Dark Elves, 90% of the Child of Greed she sent out were black-colored ones. Against the Lorsai priestess who specializes in curses and dark divine arts, these black slimes, who are completely immune to the dark element and negative energy, are their complete nemesis and their worst nightmare. However, if we were to really do as she says and create slime warriors, slime mages and such to start a war of the slimes, It might really cause the underground world to think that another intelligent race against them have appeared. That would cause quite a bit of trouble. Right, my good disciple, can we negotiate? Of course we can. I have always been one for negotiation. That is, except for dispelling the magic pet contract. I am the omniscient one, the noblest and ancient queen of banshees. How can I become a foolish and lowly magic pet? That is the job of the foolish animals. You are already a magic pet, so stop playing little tricks. According to the contract, if I die, you would have to accompany me. If you die, I will try my best to squeeze out 2 drops of tears to grieve for you. Yes, in order to tie the toughest and most resilient metal chain on these extremely dangerous personnel, the Queen of Banshees Harlois has become my magic pet. Magic pet, Harlois, main body of greed, race, unable to be classified, strength, 22 agility, 10 stamina, 40 intelligence, 28 will, 25 charm, depends job, LV 60 mage, LV 20 omniscient mage rank, legend race talent, transmogrification, myth, system evaluation. This is your magic pet, but she is constantly thinking of how to get rid of you within the limitations of the contract. You better keep her in check, or maybe, wait for her to get the better of you. The only reason why Harlois is being so obedient is because she has signed the magic pet contract with me. Under normal circumstances, a necromancer might be able to sign a magic pet contract with another undead, but it was impossible with a powerful and intelligent being. It is just that I made use of a loophole in the rules. As a necromancer, I am entitled to signing a contract with my own creation greed, and greed doesn't have any soul. Thus it is impossible to sign a magic pet contract which requires the binding of souls. However, if we were to put the unconscious soul of Harlois into the body of greed at this moment, the contract would naturally take the Harlois who have obviously lost all resistance as the soul of greed. Thus, the contract was able to be successfully established as my magic pet, based on the basic rule that the rank of a magic pet cannot exceed the mage himself. Harlois' strength went down all the way from myth to legend rookie. At the same time, she became much more obedient. I also benefited quite a bit from the contract. 1/10 of the basic stats of the magic pet would be augmented on its owner. To a normal mage, it normally doesn't have much of a use. After all, those ducks, black cats, bat, and eagles have pathetic basic stats. It is quite rare for 1/10 of their stats to even increase one's agility or stamina by 1. However, my magic pet grants me strength +2, agility +1, stamina +4, intelligence +3, will +2, effectiveness of necromancy +30%, and effectiveness of elemental magic +20%. It is really quite a big gain, not mentioning my pet's extremely high fighting prowess and the ability of the child of greed. But to the end, the main reason why I signed this magic pet contract with her is because I lack basic trust in her and don't dare to keep her out of my sight. My magic pet contract can be retained even after I revive. At that moment, even if this powerful magic pet ends up at LV1, it will still be a powerful force to rely on when starting on a clean slate. According to my plan, it isn't too far away from my day of revival. I should start planning ahead. Thus, I looked at Harlois with bad intentions. 40 points in stamina. Such a high quality meat shield and tanker. Teacher, I will be relying on you to act as my shield in the future. At this moment, Harlois suddenly shouts in shock. Why did these fellows suddenly appear on the field? On the fortress of sand, a bunch of experts was moving towards the direction of the city gates. Looking at this situation, I smiled. Ever heard that there is a soul in the god equipment that chooses its master? Bullshit. The number of god equipment that I have come into contact with is at least 2 digits, and I have yet to see a god equipment that can choose its own master. No matter how powerful a god equipment is, it is made for others to use. If a god equipment were to gain self-awareness to the point that it chooses its own user, it would have long returned to the hands of their original user. Or perhaps, it might simply get annoyed by seeing those fools vie over it and choose to dig a hole to bury itself. A god equipment choosing its own master? This is obviously some nonsense made up in night novels to make its main character seem extraordinary. If a god equipment can really grow its own legs to run, then don't dream about getting the god equipment to acknowledge you. The first thing you should suspect is whether you have walked into some scheme or trap. It is a pity that some people didn't think so. Or perhaps, they might be thinking that it is an exception and chose to go along with it. Looking at the crowd rushing out of the city on the sand field, I can't help but sigh. Spatial distortion is a natural passage. It normally appears in places where the fabric of space isn't stable and the destination at the end of the passage is completely unknown. 90% of the spatial distortions are completely random dimension warps like this. However, there is a connection between spatial distortions. The most likely situation for the destination of a spatial distortion is another spatial distortion. There are even some relatively stable connections between spatial distortions that are used as a tunnel for passage, as though walking across a bridge. There are quite a few such stable tunnels in the underground world and they are viewed as normal tunnels. Underground city lords have viewed it as an important location for the accumulation of wealth and military presence, so they built a fortress around it. However, the formation of spatial distortions is completely natural. There are much more spatial distortions in the spatially unstable underground world as compared to the surface world. However, for a spatial distortion to appear around Vance City and for it to coincidentally lead to the vicinity of Sulphur Mountain City, the possibility can be neglected altogether. However, using an extremely profound spatial magic accompanied with a great price, it is possible to create a temporary tunnel. That sudden and unexpected assault on Sulphur Mountain City back then was conducted through forcefully distorting this hidden spatial distortion in the mines here to activate and connect it with a cavern 30 meters south of Sulphur Mountain City. Then, the two underground autarchs brought their personal guards to conduct the assault. Of course, from another angle, this means that they have started plotting against Sulphur Mountain City from a long time ago. Connecting two spaces needs to be done from both ends and requires great effort and time. It isn't something that can be kicked up on a whim. After the Beastmen army was completely crushed that time, the Lion King runs all the way back to prevent the spatial distortion from being discovered. The situation is much different this time. The forceful reactivation of the connection between two spatial distortion causes the unstable spatial connection to become stable. The temporary tunnel will become a permanent one. At the same time, the price to pay for reconnecting the tunnels increases exponentially. In the mastery of spatial magic, if the demons that plague the countless dimensions in the lower realm were to say that they were second, there probably wouldn't be a race that would dare to say that they are placed first. This blood-red demon altar intends to use the unstable spatial fabric of this spatial distortion and a massive amount of tributes to open the gates to the dimension of demons so as to get backups and support. At the same time, the demon count who have been long awaiting would personally activate the spatial connection to Sulphur Mountain City. As long as Sulphur Mountain City disappears, what would the rest of those fools count as? Shu's words may sound awful, but he did accurately point out the weakest link of Sulphur Mountain City. Sulphur Mountain City has a weak defense and lacks a strategic vantage point. Furthermore, it only has one city. What does a history of a century count as? If we were to break their nest, then no matter how strong Adam and that Woomians is, they, who lost their roots, wouldn't be able to overturn the situation. Of course, there are some words that they didn't tell each other. For example, the leaders of both sides have requested for the release of the seal of the fire elemental god. For example, the intent to fall out immediately after getting rid of Sulphur Mountain City. At this moment, countless soldiers are getting into formation and waiting for the dimension gate to open. My 12 armies, 79,000 underground beastman. In the face of my veteran elites, those cowards of Sulphur Mountain City aren't even worth mentioning. I will lend you 4 divisions. They might only comprise 30,000 people, but there are 2 mage divisions and 1 shaman division in it. This should be enough to make up for the magic firepower you lack. The oppressing dark army starts to gather and silently, the flags started to rise up. This is the accumulation of the underground autarchs, the elite army of over 10 underground cities. There was a considerable number of legends and saints in their midst. In fact, there are even a couple of myth experts within their ranks. Different from the situation before, the underground autarchs are well prepared this time. Suddenly, Shu looks towards the sky of Vance City. He was delighted for a moment, then shocked before becoming angry, and finally, he felt a trace of fear. Eternal Night Scepter? It is flying here by itself. Yes, The sight here is just like what those night novels normally depict. The god equipment chooses his own master and flies over thousands of miles to seek him. To the deeply poisoned Lion King, this is naturally something to be delighted about. But, what that made him shocked, angry and even frightened is those people who are chasing the scepter. Apparently, they don't believe that a god equipment could have a soul to choose its own master. Don't you dare to touch it. It is mine, Crimspurs. No, only I, Lamost, who has been said to be the one closest to the recent undead emperor, is suited for this scepter. I can already hear its calling. You fool, that is just your misconception. The scepter is obviously calling for me. This is its test for me. Those who are in the forefront are the three frenzied undead senators. Looking at the madness burning in the green flames in their eyes, it seems to be burning even their own souls. Behind them, there is everything. It is really a mystery how the gigantic nine-headed dragon emperor could come here from the swamp it lives far away. Its gigantic body shouldn't allow it to even pass through the underground passage. Over there, a great angel carrying the sun's bow is currently fighting with another fire demon who is dancing with his inferno whip while chasing the scepter. In this instant, the Sand Dragon King from the desert is destroying the entire underground tunnel. The elf knights riding unicorns are racing with the Death Lords. Thousands of experts of different races are chasing the scepter, and the ones blocking them are the alliance army of the two underground Autarch. In this instant, Shu somehow remembered the words left behind by the man dressed in a long robe and hidden behind a mask a month ago. You might regret it. Back then, he replied arrogantly. The Beastman Sovereign never regrets. Right now, watching as his army got involved in a battle due to some ridiculous reason, not to mention that they were getting suppressed and slaughtered by the experts of differing races, he feels a sensation of weakness which he had never felt before. Looking at the radiant eternal night scepter in front of him, he senses the disappearance of Edur, who has dumped his army on him. He has been forced into a corner in all aspects. The white-haired old lion could only sigh helplessly. Woomians. You were right, I am regretting it now, but... Wag. Beastman never surrenders. The next moment, after a deafening roar, the Lion King leaves another scar on his face that represents another score to settle. The undefeated Lion King has returned. The one who is even more cunning than the devils, Woomians. This old man admits that he is regretting it, but this doesn't mean that I'll lose. Woomians. I will return it tenfold back to you one day. The 1st, 7th, and 9th divisions, faced them head on. The Duyan division, get into formation. Prepare to face the brunt of the charge. Let them witness the might of the Beastmen army. The weak surface dwellers actually dare to mess around in the underground world. Kill them. Greed, it is forever the original sin that is difficult to suppress. Looking at the Eternal Night Scepter fan group that disappeared without a trace on the sand field, I stand up to prepare to move out. You aren't waiting anymore? The underground autarchs aren't that easy to deal with. We must also do some preparations. Elisa, help me thank Meniel for the report he sent over. If he didn't inform us about the gathering of the old lion's army, we might really be outdone this time. Right, ask Kenny and Adam to prepare to move out as well. It is time for the final battle. Chapter 59, Demon Count. Compared to the clear skies of the surface world, the sky of the underground world is always yellow and dark. People are already used to thinking it through before deciding to drink that murky underground water which is full of impurities. They are also used to have their clothes full of dust if they hang it outside from too long and coughing blood at the young age caused by all kind of respiratory problems. Perhaps, this is the basic reason why the descendants of those exiled look forward to the blue sky and white clouds of the surface world. After all, who wouldn't hope for a better life for their children? At this moment, the yellow sky turns even more awful. The clouds in the sky turned into an eerie blood red color. The crepuscular wind blows slightly, and if it were to be slightly closer to the surface, one could smell the nauseous smell of blood. The crepuscular wind isn't formed naturally. In the world of Ike where souls are an actual entity, the echo of the gloomy wind is a ghastly apparition formed by the fragments of the soul. When sufficient blood fills the land at one go, sufficient people have died, it would create a natural relatively confined land of negative energy that is known as the land of the rise of undead, the cursed land. When too many people die at one go and the souls linger around, reluctant to die just like this, Their feelings will resonate and the dead will remain in the world. Undead will rise in bulks. In history, there was even an incident when a city is massacred. The entire city turns into a necropolis and the knights who gave their life for their country turned into death knights. This is also the main reason why the battlefield has to be cleaned by the victor at the end of a great battle. Other than collecting their spoils of war and burning the corpses that could bring plague, they have to invite priests to purify the souls of warriors who died with grievances. Otherwise, if this land turns into another cursed land where undead gather in the next few decades, it would really be a big source of trouble. Even so, as evidenced from those undead lords often prowling around ancient battlefields, if the death toll numbers up to several tens of thousands or several hundreds of thousands, coupled with the death of sufficient powerful people, the heavy aura of death might be unwilling to scatter. The bright red blood stains even a few meters beneath the ground. The despair of the experts lingers around the mortal world as a curse. When all of these conditions are met, the purification of the priests won't work, it will still forcefully turn into a cursed land. Or even worse, it might be the high-tier land of death. This time, surroundings around the mine outside Vance is destined to become the new land of death. This is smell of a battlefield belonging to the medieval era. The scent of blood drifts along the wind. Even people a few miles away could smell it clearly. The dark and murky crepuscular wind prowls high in the air of the battlefield. The tears of the living and the cry of agony of those surviving echoes throughout the battlefield. Standing on the bloodstained land, the old lion looks at his old subordinates who have followed him for several decades for a last time. Carrying his axe, he offers the final relief to an old soldier who only has half of his throat remaining. Clean the battlefield. There is no place for kindness on the battlefield. This is an order squeezed out from gritted teeth. On the battlefield, healing and potions are always insufficient. The priests and other healing jobs have long expended all of their mana on the battlefield. The phrase cleaning the battlefield refers more to offering relief to both the enemies and allies who are on the brink of death. Have we won? Yes, the old lion and his army have won. After losing over half of his army, after the fearless charge of over tens of thousands of soldiers, after face of innumerable destruction of life and souls, the experts whose rationality have been overran by their greed finally weigh the importance of keeping their lives as greater than the pursuit of future authority and strength. Those living have all started to scatter. But those who are dead and heavily injured are bound to remain on this foreign land forever. At this moment, it was already too late. Ha 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 ha. Such a pleasing sight. Shu.Nuaya, I have seen your doomed future. I never thought that the curse would be taking effect so soon. I will be waiting for you in hell. The red dragon who witnessed everything, the one whose fresh blood has filled the entire altar and is being tied to it as though a poultry waiting to be slaughtered, mocks her archenemy without any sympathy. I lost, huh? Yes, despite winning this battle, the old lion lost as well. What he lost is everything. The elite core of the 12 divisions all have losses numbering over half. 2 of the divisions were completely crushed. This ace army, the Duyan division, in the face of the primary charge have casualties over 90%. However, what he lost was not just those on the surface. War is an extension of politics. If a war is unable to bring about any profits, then even if they won the war, it is still a loss that is determined from the very start. Looking at his trembling hands, she recalls the moment when he was smashing the skull of the great mathematician Penny. Horst. He could see absolute madness and curse within her eyes as her green soul fire extinguishes. He knows that this isn't the end of things. Since liches don't die that easily, when she revives, the assault of great army of undead could be almost said to be inevitable. The death of Zayuo Empire's 11th senator is just the smaller part of the trouble. The 10th senator and king of corrosion almost doesn't have the ability to resurrect himself after death. The look of his old partner crimps as he leaves with his incomplete body, the gaze of intense hatred. It was also the shadow of a new war that is looming about. Furthermore, the undead senators were just a portion of the experts there who met with casualties. Done. I'm done for. Just as how Molly mocked him, Shu's career as an underground autarch is done for. He and his army just chopped off the head of a knight of royalty of Felix Elf Kingdom and hung the head of an advisor of All End Kingdom on a spear. Even the legendary beast tamer Geridus's only disciple was slaughtered. Eventually, The beastmen could no longer recognize which influential figure it is and which power was backing him. They were already numb. Shu knows that there is no individual or organization that can still live under the wrath of so many powers. No one. Needless to say, this is the underground world. The ones with the highest casualties is still the underground city lords who he has barely met with, or even those under his command. A debt of blood. Shu doesn't regret his actions at all. Should he surrender his head just because the enemy have the backing of powerful figures or organizations? Since the enemy have already expressed clearly of their intention to get rid of this successor of the god equipment to become the next Emperor Young I, should he obediently pass his head and god equipment to them? The only thing he regrets is the looks his soldiers were staring at him with. Those were no longer respectful and trusting gazes. Their eyes are full of confusion and fear. Sometimes, when their eyes locked together, they would divert their gazes and whisper silently about his secrets. Look at those yellow pupil, and the claws and wings of the demons. Our king is actually a demon, then why are we fighting for him? Shu was forced to his limits under the undead senators. In order to survive, he was forced to tap into the powers of a demon, causing the traits of demons that would never appear on an ordinary beastman to materialize. He couldn't fool the eyes of tens of thousands of warriors. The enmity of the underground world towards the Chaos faction isn't as strong as on the surface. As an underground city lord, one could collude with the demons, side with the malevolent gods and scheme together with the devils. However, if the underground autarch, which represents the entire beastman tribe, isn't even a beastman, then what rights does he have to sit on this position? Shu can already imagine the situation when these rumors spread through the entire underground world. Those ambitious underground city lords will use this as a reason to raise the flags of betrayal. The soldiers under him would probably be confused for whom they should fight for. No, I am not done for yet. I still have this. I am going to be the next undead emperor. The brilliant god equipment in his hands has become his final straw. Suddenly, from the back of an altar, a blinding light of blood red and countless souls and blood were absorbed into the altar by an intangible force. The fresh blood forms a river, and the grievances of the souls of the experts who died were crying in despair. All of it were pulled into the gate leading to another dimension. Tributes. Such rich tributes. So many high quality souls, so many delicious dishes. The altar has already been activated. By a series of coincidences, unexpectedly, this fight became the best tribute for the demon Count Cockajil. In this war, thousands of legends have fallen and hundreds of thousands of elite beastmen warriors perished. Their souls and fresh blood is even sufficient to allow this demon Count, who is known for devouring souls, to step into higher realms. Perhaps, in less than 1,000 years, a new demon duke would be born. However, demons are beings that doesn't know the concept of satisfaction. Scepter. Quickly, pass Eternal Night Scepter to me. Even to demon counts, a god equipment that conceals the profound secrets of a semi-god undead emperor is a rare treasure. Perhaps, after laying his hands on the scepter, he is able to add death, undead or similar chaos concepts into his power. If so, his route to breaking through would be smooth. Hearing that his master wants the scepter, Shu's face immediately hardens. He wants to escape with the scepter, but with the sufficient tributes, the connection to the lower realm has already been established. In the face of a demon count, it is impossible for him to escape. Large deformed hands stretch out from the empty space within the dimension gate. With slight gesture from his fingers, the scepter flies into his hands. Ha! Eternal Night Scepter. This is great. Is it my lucky day today? Later, I will go beat up some devils for entertainment. Shu kneels despairingly onto the floor. Even his final straw is gone. His position of the Beastman Sovereign will be stripped very soon. With such rich tributes, the demon count could probably descend onto the mortal world himself. His job as his proxy has probably come to an end. Suddenly, a furious roar causes this entire space to tremble. Fake. It is fake. Who is it? Who dares to fool this noble and great Cockajil? I must tear him into pieces. The entire dimension gate starts to tremble. Very quickly, a gigantic hoof blazing with inferno steps out of the gate of hell. Soon afterwards, that savage goat head appears from the gate. The entire world starts to darken and the cracks appear on the ground. The fire hidden beneath the ground all rises to the surface and a few extinct volcanoes erupts. With great rage, Demon Count, so Leader Cockajil descends on the mortal world. At this moment, Shu was still in shock over the fact that the scepter is a fake. He gave everything, but in the end, he was made a fool of from the very start. Impossible, impossible. In his mutterings, that word suddenly appears in his mind once again. You might regret it. Wumians, you deceived me. At this moment, the frenzied howling of Shu was ignored by everyone. The furious demon lord already has him in his hands, holding him straight in front of his face. Who is it who dares to deceive the great Cockajil? Is it you? You demon bastard! Just by standing there, the 100-meter-tall body seems to corrupt the earth. All of the plants wither and dies. The volcanoes explode and cracks appear on the land. Cockajil's existence starts to destroy the rules of the surroundings. A demon duke is capable of crossing blows with gods, while the demon count, which is a tier lower, can be said to be an unrivaled existence on the mortal world. The stinging stench of sulfur makes one feel suffocated. His great strength crushes all of Shu's bone together. The gigantic mouth that devours blood, flesh and souls is right in front of him. The beastman sovereign had to justify everything for the sake of his life. At this moment, under the questioning of his master, the silhouette of the hateful man appears once again in Shu's vision. No. It is Wumians and that darn Sulphur Mountain City. The scepter was sent by them. It was all their scheme. That man deceived you, noble demon count. Hearing that, the demon count hesitates. Looking at the frightened beastman by the side, he decides to spare the life of this mixed blood. No one can deceive Cockajil without paying the price. Use your life to atone for your sin. If you do well, then I will spare your wretched life. The demon count waves his hand and the dimension gate opens entirely. Countless demons crowds in. At the same time, another brand new gate on the other side opens. In there, a beautiful city by the mountains could be vaguely seen, Sulphur Mountain City. Our new tributes are there. That city is filled with the hateful power of order. Fool, show the way to where the fire elemental god is sealed. If you were to delay Prince Carwin's plans, I will make you cry in agony for all eternity in my lantern. At this moment, our group was moving slowly, chatting while walking slowly, as though like we were on a tour. From the very start, I didn't think that those greedy fellows would be sufficient to deal with an underground autarch. After the Alliance conference, it's perfectly okay for an underground autarch to launch a war campaign against another underground city lord. In the end, power is all that matters. Truthfully, I don't get the point of what he is saying. I'm just going to translate directly. The location for the final battle has been decided. What is left is the entrance of the audience. We don't have much people here. Me, Adam, Little Red and Margaret, who is still at Sulphur Mountain City, excluding Lisa who can't be here. The entire team back then is all here. However, we intentionally brought Annie and Elisa this time. Little Red and Adam are excited on being able to get on the battlefield, and Elisa maintains silence as per usual. On the contrary, Annie lowers her head, looking depressed. Her state affects the progress of my epic mission. Whether she breaks through legend or not, I intend to get Adam to pass on the seat of the city lord to her at the end of this battle so as to fulfill the basic conditions for my revival. I am finally on the verge of getting my physical body. If I were to continue on with the weak state I am in now, how can I deal with future troubles? As long as I revive with a new body, using the system and my advantage from being knowledgeable about the events, I can grow strong rapidly and start on my series of plans. Furthermore, I look forward to the class of the physical body I would get when I revive. There are different classes for physical body. Of course there is. The Goddess of Order and Goddess of Chaos weren't fair from the moment they worked on their creations. The direct creation of Goddess of Order, the Great Dragons, are considered as the Golden Race. Without doing anything, they will be able to attain the minimum strength of a gold rank when they come of age. Yet, the second-generation humans could hardly be considered as the Iron Race. Normal grown adults can't even defeat a skeleton soldier. The first-generation humans are the mountainous tribe that fell to become devils. My current body of Lich is actually called the King of Undying, Silver. It is equivalent to the more powerful Silver Race. The strength that it provides me isn't inferior in any ways to the bonus Elisa gets from demonification. It is unfair, but it is the cruel reality. Adam might have reached the peak of humans as a semi-god, but he might not even be a match for Little Red, who isn't at the same level as him. Back then, Elisa could beat Annie using just one hand despite both of them being of the same rank. This is effect of physical body to one's total fighting prowess. It determines the basic stats and the race talents, race abilities, and even serves as the basis of all strength and magic. No matter how skilled your swordsmanship is, you can't do anything with a weak body. Imagine wielding a sword with both hands and meeting an 8-handed monster whose strength is 3 times of yours. If you are both of the same skill level, there is totally no way you could beat him. A building of 10,000 fathoms high is built from the ground. The height of the building is dependent on how solid the base is. For one's fighting prowess to be strong, the physical body and bloodline is important. TL, around 18.2 kilometers. Of course, the weak races have the advantage in numbers and tools. Furthermore, normal golden bloodline grow extremely slow. Otherwise, the surface world wouldn't be dominated by the weakest race, the humans. But, in order to face the problems that will occur in the future, power is something I cannot lack. The demon army won't go talk sense with you. Their race talents and basic stats are even more so, strong, that it makes one shiver. How strong would the race talent of the favored one of the abyss, the demon prince, be? Most probably, even the dragons who are known as the golden race can't compare with him. The last time, I am already of silver rank. This time, will I get a body with talents that is equal to the dragon race, or, even a rank higher? However, in history, the demon prince still ends up getting slaughtered by humans. This shows that perhaps, race talents aren't everything. Fine, I know that the unlucky demon prince in history is me and the hero who killed me is Annie in front of me, who is obviously not in a good state. Why? Are you afraid? Suddenly, recalling the history, do I count as a demon king who counsels the hero before the battle? If someday, she was to grow up and slices me apart with her sword, then don't I have to prepare a medal for myself, the demon king who touches the world, trying his best to dig his own grave? No, I just myself really dumb, not being able to help much. Different from the awkward Elisa, Annie is a straightforward kid. When someone asks her about her trouble, she replies directly. However, Adam and Little Red, who was listening in by the side, smiles. In their eyes, the trouble Annie was facing really don't count much. I used my gaze to invite Adam over to console her. However, he looks at the ceiling, trying his best to feign ignorance. At the same time, Little Red was suddenly interested in the ant holes on the ground. Frustrated, I look around me. In the end, I could only do it myself. Hey! Those fellows have been training for hundreds and even thousands of years. You aren't even 20, so it is normal that you are unable to catch up with them. That isn't it. If it is just strength, Annie can accept it. However, Annie just finds herself really dumb. Despite seeing everyone being so busy, I can't help much with them. Big sister Elisa can do everything well and little Victoria was able to suppress everyone during the conference. But, as the future city lord, I could only look from one side. Looking at Annie, who was truly frustrated, my head hurts. Young boys and girls like to compare with others of the same age as them, so it is much easier for them to corner themselves. Just like how the one who is the most carefree in our team is dumbass Adam because he thinks that he will screw things up if given the responsibility. This generation, compared to Elisa, who is the head of Observer, and the seemingly mild but cunning and devilish Victoria, Annie does seem immature. However, if I were to say the truth, she would probably just get more depressed. If the future city lord were to lose her confidence, my epic mission would go down the drain. It seems that you have misunderstood something. Remember what I told you the last time? The thing is that the most important to a city lord is to use talents properly. Throw the troublesome things to those who are skilled in dealing with them. I mean, look at the current city lord. Isn't he still leading and slacking around without a guilty conscience? Cough cough. After hearing my evaluation of him, Adam fakes to cough, indicating me to stop talking about him. It looks he still has some self-awareness. He knows that nothing good comes out from talking about him. But, Uncle Bones, you said that everyone's path is different. I don't want to be like Godfather. Everyone is obviously so busy and there is so many things he could do, but he chose to hide and slack around. Normally, he also lazes around, inciting criticisms from the people. I think that this is very embarrassing. Being said to be embarrassing by her goddaughter, Adam's face immediately turns sorrowful. Little Red bends over, laughing loudly. Elisa nods her head and looks at me with a meaningful look that says you are the same. Normally, I would pull down his reputation further without any hesitation. But this time, even if it gets me frustrated, I have to help to protect his image. Actually, there is also another important task for the city lord to work on other than protecting everyone. It may be hard to rush to gain sufficient strength to protect everybody, but there is another thing which you can try work hard on now, and Adam is quite successful in that aspect. What? You are the head, so you have to point out the direction for everyone, so that everyone would have more confidence in tomorrow, giving them the motivation and hope to live their hardest every day. Even if you can't find one, it is alright to make one up. But, I don't even know my own direction. Then, you can try asking your subordinates what do they wish the future to be like. Combine all the dreams and expectations for the future of everyone and maybe, that is the direction where you should lead them towards. Hesitating for a moment, I felt that perhaps this is the moment for me to clarify some things. I started to talk about my own personal experiences. Giving an example, many years ago, there is a tyrant who decided to stop invading other countries. He started peace talks with the surrounding kingdoms. However, if he were to say this to those city lords and generals beneath him, there could only be one conclusion. What conclusion? Annie asks curiously. He would be overthrown. His hungry generals aren't satisfied yet and the noble city lords beneath him aren't content with the new territory and population they earned. They will overthrow the current king who is in their path and swiftly nominate new leader, continuing their invasion. The one who answered Annie's question is Adam. Looking at his leisurely look, it is apparent that he has been considering this question for more than a day or two. Yes, back then, there are 7 undead lords who are just slightly weaker than me in the Yongai army. Even if there is a screw loose in their head and they agreed to stop the invasion, how can I explain this to the middle tier and high tier undead generals? When every single undead general is anticipating the arrival of the age of undead, I don't even have the confidence to convince my 4 heavenly kings to make peace with the living. The only outcome for me then if I did so is the occurrence of a coup d'etat and getting overthrown. So, many times, the enthroned rulers are just the combined will of his people. The direction that he must point everyone towards is just the future which majority anticipates. So, you don't have to overthink it and just try your best to listen. Look, there might be a lot of freaks in our city, but everyone is living happily. Even those perverts who often get locked in the cell didn't leave the city. If you like this city too, protect it well, allow it to operate just as it did. Isn't that enough? Yes, just like I said, given the strength of Bai Feng, Eagle Storm, Xuidi, and Bar Brothers, they could go anywhere in this wide world. Who knows, they might even be able to become nobles in some other locations. However, they chose to stay in the city that is full of rules here and there. Despite messing around, they were willing to lower their pride and accept the punishments. This shows that there is something that they want here, something that other places won't provide them. My words were too broad. The female city lord nods her head, confused. Try your best to think about it and build up using your effort bit by bit. Everyone walked the same path like that. Your big sister Elisa will help you. This time, Elisa spares me some face and just nods her head solemnly. Annie will work hard. There is still a bit of confusion in her eyes, but from the look of her clenched fist, it seems that she has regained her spirit. Congratulations, epic mission. The revival of the Phoenix is 50% completed. Please try your best. When the mission is completed, there will be a special reward depending on how the situation turns out. The system also brushes up its existence at this time. However, the tangible rewards bring me the motivation to work hard. Before we even reach our destination, the earth starts to shake and split open. Even more so, the volcanoes far away starts erupting and the sky is full of ominous red clouds. Something is obviously wrong. At the same time, with a god sword that he borrowed from Annie, Adam slashes the rock wall while charging forward, splitting apart half of the hill. Then, he raises his long sword, making the standard pose of a knight preparing to charge as he roars towards the hill. Who are you? Come out. Otherwise, I will cut you along with this hill. The lazy Adam is actually agitated. There isn't any need to draw his sword to split the hill, so, Little Red and the rest had looks of incomprehension on their face. But, I just frowned in disdain. My magic eye has already told me the conclusion. Hey, isn't it just cause you just lost face in front of your juniors, so you hope to salvage the situation by this? You will just end up crying. Following Adam's furious roar, a bald gnome spy appears runs out from the back of the hill. City Lord, don't cut, it's me. Observer number 4267. We are on the same side. Just you? Just me. It's enough, you don't have to say anything. Looking at your thick eyebrows and large eyes, to think that a person with such honest face would actually be a revolutionary. You traitor, to think you lured us here to ambush us. I will kill you in the name of Sulphur Mountain City. Pa. This isn't the sound of a gunshot. It's just that I really can't watch one and kick the Adam who, despite obviously knowing that he is wrong but persistently pushing on. This spy obviously has important intelligence. If we were to continue messing around, it might end up in a disaster. Quickly flipping through the intelligence, even I was dumbfounded. Looks like there is an explanation for the earthquakes just now. A demon count won't be easy to deal with. I threw the information to Little Red. After reading it, she turns into her dragon form without any hesitation. Due to the existence of dragon knights in all kinds of night novels, a large portion of giant dragons actually dislike mortals riding on their back. However, at this moment, Little Red couldn't care less. Come up, I will fly as fast as I can. We must make it in time to stop them. The opponent this time won't be easy. You all better recharge your energy and prepare for the final battle. Chapter 60. Charge with me. What are the demons? No matter what race it is, the first reaction they would have towards this question is abhorrence, extreme abhorrence. It isn't to directly say that no living being would like demons, including themselves. They mostly feel resentment and hatred to their own brethren as well. Chaotic, violent, malevolent, destructive, greedy and untrustworthy. Other than scheming, it seems that almost all of the negative adjectives could be attached to them. The only reason why no one would blame the demons for being scheming is because this kind of chaos life form often do not have the interest or the time to spare for interaction. If it is a problem that can be solved with violence, then it will never be solved verbally. Thus, needless to say, they wouldn't go out to use their head to scheme against others. The equally evil devils, despite their bad reputation, but they are much more welcome than demons. The main reason would be because they like to sign contracts and exchange with others. They are rational and can be reasoned fault with. Even if there are terms written that shirks them from responsibility and hidden terms within such that there would definitely be fraud and hidden methods within the exchange, but devils are known to be trustworthy. In a way, they are much better than the demons who simply destroy everything. Demons are the first generation that is created by the goddess of chaos Cynthia. They were the ones who tempted the first generation of humans to fall into depravity to become devils. They were also the one who created the undead calamity, so going by logic, they should be the original inhabitants of this multidimensional world, the core of the chaos faction. In this novel, devils belong to be chaos faction and they follow the goddess of chaos. However, as they used to be from the order factions, their way of doing things are more sided towards the order. In reality, the demons are the archenemies of the devils, the common foe of the undead, and the infighting between them is savage. Despite all of the races hating them, they are still able to control most of the dimensions in the lower realm and do as they please in each realm. The reason for that is that they are strong enough and that there is enough of them around. As long as the river Styx continues to flow, the souls of the dead flowing within will continuously convert into the lowly dredge. This way, there would be endless backup for the demons. The dimensions where the demons live are always fraught with internal battle, and after a cruel infighting and devouring, a new powerhouse would be created. If a demon and devil of equal rank were to fight, there is a 90% chance that it would be the demon who lives. Every time a hole leading to the demon's dimension opens in the main dimension, it would cause a huge trouble even if it is just a small group of demons entering. After leaving the lower realms, they would gradually grow weaker. But, before they grow weak until the point they die and return to the lower realms, they will bring countless souls away with them, and souls are forever the most valuable currency in the lower realm. This time, we are really in for it deep. On other days, the demon worshippers only dare to secretly sacrifice a few people. Even sacrificing 1,000 people is a shocking big amount. This time, Tens of thousands of veteran soldiers and over 1,000 legend experts been sacrificed has indubitably created a new record. A tribute of a level that was never seen before allowed the demon count to descend with his true body. This is a catastrophe that was never seen in history. Demon count. It may seem that his position as a noble isn't high and there are quite a few of them in the abyss as well. But, he is already in existence of a division leader of the demon army. If he were to progress another step upwards, it would be the Demon Duke. They are often the leaders of some dimensions and they are able to fight equally with true gods. The Marquis and Grand Duke are just noble titles within the demons. The Demon Marquis are stronger than most counts and the title is used for those who don't have their own dimension and thus, aren't able to rise up to the position of a duke. Thus, that title is used for the stronger demon counts. As for Demon Grand Duke, they are existences that can scoff at normal duke level demons. Ben's city is already in a mess. The news that a noble among the demons has descended has already spread around somehow and even Lorsa couldn't spare the effort to bother about her own daughter getting killed. After being banished by the other elf gods, the underground world serves as her only territory and her source of faith. If it were to be turned into a wreck by the demons, she would have go into hibernation or even descent. Of course, it would be more embarrassing if she sent an incarnation down and got beaten up on the streets. She is probably discussing the decision to send out troops together with the other gods of the underground world. But, when the true gods really move out to settle the problem, the entire underground world would probably be partially wrecked. Dimension summoning and dimension movement are the expertise of the demons. Making use of the spatial distortion and the demon altar, the gate to the abyss is pulled open. Responding to the summoning of their leader, Cockajill's direct army rushes frenziedly into the main dimension. Dretch, Quasit, Succubus, Bebilf, Retriever, Vrock, Glabrazu, many different kind demons who could be classified and the many demons who can't be classified come rushing into the main dimension until the dimension gate can no longer handle the pressure and caca, it breaks into fragments. TL, too much D&D reference. Copied from here for the names. The entire battlefield is filled with black demons who looks at the faraway Vance city. The desire for fresh blood and souls of the lower tier demons were suppressed by their master. Suppressing their own instincts, each and every of them goes through another permanent spatial distortion, Sulphur Mountain City. The vast and mighty demon army advances and the rules of this dimension are eroded by the group of them standing together. Wherever they passed, plants naturally wither and die. The ground turns red and barren and very soon, new bizarre plants start growing out. They are likely to be carnivorous plants with great offensive power. The existence of the demons created by the Chaos faction by itself is sufficient to destroy the rules of the dimension. Right now, half of an army of the demons have descended to the mortal realm, coupled with the true body of a demon count. If they aren't driven off quickly, the rules of this dimension might be totally twisted, possibly turning here into another lower realm. A low-tier hellhound's body is crimson red and it looks even more ugly than the ugliest wolf. They serve as the dogs and the hunting pack simultaneously. Without even waiting for the arrival of the main army, they started their assault. After clearing away all of the different tribes in the way, they captured an unlucky family of terror claw beasts and just as they were about to earn some credit from the master, they realized that there was one person blocking in front of the entire army. Yes, just one person. A figure wearing a light blue robe. She still carries the same green vine wand in her hands and she looks quietly in the ancient books in her hands. Even when the hellhounds come rushing forward, she didn't even raise her head. Kaka the low-tier hellhounds were frozen in midair and turned into an ice sculpture. Then, the sculpture breaks into fragments of ice and falls onto the floor. At this while, Margaret's attention remains on the book. Only when the great army closes in does she raises her head and lightly taps her wand on the saint stone floating beside her. Ician. The long-prepared forbidden spell explodes instantly. The ice elves carol in midair and the entire underground world turns into a scenery of white snow. Endless frost and hailstorm rushes towards the demon army. After the hailstorm, the entire world turns into ice. The number of frozen demons are uncountable, but Margaret frowns. After all, she was only copying other people's magic. Without the augmentation of her soul imprint and talents, what she is unleashing is only the basic might of the spell, making it much inferior to the original version. If it was the Ician used by Lord Yang, even the demon count would be destroyed, being blasted head-on like this. However, if Margaret was the one casting it, kill her. Among the white snow, 100-meter-tall figure stands up. Its body is full of blazing flames and it begins charging while roaring. As I expected, a large portion of the might was blocked by this demon lord. Huh? Shaking her head, Margaret doesn't lose heart. She waves her wand and the other saint stone shines a bluish-purple light of the essence of space. The next instant, she was transported to another location a few miles away. Foolish bumpkin from the main dimension, to dare to make a fool out of the great cockatiel. I will pull you apart and feed you to the dogs. Then, I will roast your soul on fire for 10,000 years. However, Margaret, who has escaped far away, would not hear this vicious curse. The large portion of the might of the forbidden spell was blocked by the demon count. Other than the fire element low-tier demons who died instantly from taking double damage from ice magic, the losses of the army weren't great. However, after walking a few miles, the exact same event happened again. Integrated forbidden spell, the harmony of fire and wind. It is an original forbidden spell by Einmi's use that combines both fire and wind. A fire tornado hundreds of meters high is created and it even pulled the powerful cockatiel far from the surface. However, the result of this attack is even worse. This magic uses wind to complement the flames and it mainly depends on the flames to destroy the enemy. However, as demons have strong natural resistance against flames and Margaret, once again, can only deal the basic damage. The demons who died don't even number in thousands. Rather, the weak beastman fodders who was caught in the flames and died instantly numbers over 10,000. Afterward, looking at the female saint who disappears in a dimension gate once again, the furious cockatiel could only grab a few beastmen and chew on them to vent him anger. However, what was bizarre is that the other beastmen didn't resist when looking at their brethren getting devoured. In fact, none of them even discussed about it. Furthermore, their looks seem to be abnormal now. Their originally big bodies have grown a notch bigger and countless blood veins appeared in those blood-red eyes of theirs as they stare at the Lin in front of them blankly. No matter which beastman tribe one originally belongs to, an unhealthy blood-red color starts to grow on their skin and on the bodies of the large portion of the experts. There were a symbol exclusive to the demons. Demon blood. Yes, just like I originally overheard, as a final ace of shoe, demon's blood has been long mixed into the drinking water this morning. The moment it activates, Shu would not be able to retreat anymore. In this instant, the demon blood which was granted by the demon lord personally has been activated, granting these beastmen elites the ability to maximize the potential of their physical body. While becoming numb to pain and having their fighting prowess increase exponentially, they also became a puppet of the demons. As for Shu himself, he is the #1 cannon fodder who rushes in a daze. Right now, half of his body was frozen and the other half burned. To be able to survive a forbidden spell, one can only say that he is really resilient. In the top of the mountains far away, Margaret looks at the darkened saint stones and roughly calculates. She is slightly surprised. Escaping through a dimension gate after dumping a forbidden spell, the classical kiting technique of a mage. I didn't expect that messy strategy of that fellow would be effective. But, it is a pity that I don't have any more copied forbidden spell. Using a normal large AO spell would probably not be effective at all. No, at least I was able to stall for some time. They should be arriving soon. Before disappearing once again in the dimension gate, killing intent appears in the tranquil eyes of the great saint. That is the anger when something that one treasures is being threatened. From this position, the figure of Sulphur Mountain City could be seen. If the demon army were to be allowed to enter Sulphur Mountain City, definitely not. I definitely will not allow it. But, things never go along with one's wish. After the demon army and cockatiel were prepared, this kind of kiting strategy was no longer effective, especially when the saint has finished the magic which she copied and stored. Her own offensive magic requires a long time to cast and its destructive power is lacking. In fact, after the somehow familiar Chaos Demon Dragon warned her, there were 2 times Margaret almost got dimension anchored. If her reaction was slightly slower then, the only outcome awaiting her is getting surrounded and killed. Finally, realizing that she is no longer able to stall them and she was just wasting mana, she grinds her teeth as she looks at the demon army and teleports to the city wall. But, What surprised her is that the city wall was full of people. Sulphur Mountain City doesn't have any army. After half of the town's security, which could be reluctantly called an army, were taken away by Woomians, the remaining half are all here. However, what that surprised her the most were the civilians. Engineers of all races were doing their best to put cannons and catapults together. The Wild Bull Alliance druids, on a rare occasion, were wearing their leather armor and carried their wooden wands. The Nangxiang students carried their wooden swords as they walked up to the city walls. However, the priests of the Holy Church were giving their own equipment to the young people to equip. At least they can still fight. Those aunties and uncles who were equipped with a pot on their head and wielding choppers as weapons made one at a loss of whether to laugh or cry. Looking at the people who were busy preparing for war, Margaret felt a little touched yet speechless at the same time. "Who asked you all to come, Reddy?" they volunteered. I stopped Margaret's words. By one side, Little Red was so tired that she was lying on the floor with her tongue out. On the other hand, Adam was sitting on a cannon on the city wall while squinting into the distance. He may look leisurely, but I know that all of his attention was fixed onto the tall demon lord. Initially, Adam and the rest intended to halt the demon army halfway, but looking at the endless demon army and the incredibly powerful demon lord, I suggested waiting for them to come knocking in Sulphur Mountain City. After all, my final trump card is hidden here. Yes, everyone did it voluntarily. Everyone just wanted to use their own hands to protect their own homeland. Looking at this busy sight, Annie's fighting will has reached the peak and the crimson red inferno on her god sword burns intensely. Looking the will of the people uniting as one, she has vaguely felt the boundaries of her own road as a legend. This feels not bad. There are many capable people in Sulphur Mountain City. When the news of the invasion of the ill-reputed demon army spreads, the civilians of this city, which lacks an army, didn't all flee as expected. Instead, those who are stronger equips their full battle gear and walks up to the city wall, while the other weaker civilians organize themselves to settle the logistics. Everyone worked hard within their own capabilities under the same flag, using their own hands to protect their own homeland. Somehow, I seem to see past the veil of time and peer into the distant future. Every city in the future would be like this, without any army to invade others. Under the radiance of the law, civilians would distance themselves from crimes and live their hardest to enjoy the pleasures of life. When equality finally triumphs, the concept of kindness and evil won't be something plastered on an entire race. Wars will only appear in musicals and myths. The youngsters would leisurely criticize the war heroes of the past and lament the peace has buried their talents, that they are too unlucky. Looks like the last 100 years weren't in vain. Suddenly, I feel motivated again. Looks like I won't have trouble living another 100 years. I look at the figures busying themselves on the city walls and I laughed, joy radiating deep from my heart. At the same time, Margaret was still trying to persuade those ordinary civilians to distance themselves from the city walls. But, looking from the civilians who come crowding in from both sides, this attempt is bound to end in failure. As the demons close in on us, my laugh grows louder. Looks like those fellows intend to defeat us by outnumbering us. What do you think? To compete with an undead emperor in a battle of armies? Lord, please allow us to teach those immature demon lads what a true military is like and what a true fearless charge is. That is a tall and headless knight. The polo stick in his hand is just as striking as his bald head in the other. At this instant, he is staring cross-eyed at the nightmare horses. He has been wanting to change his mount for a long time. That's right, I have been spinning the roulette for so much recently that my bones are aching. Finally, there is an opportunity for me to draw my sword. What? There is even an 8-hand snake officer. Leave him to me. I will kill whoever who snatches him from me. This is an 18-hand skeleton general. Right now, he is busy changing the poles with plates spinning on top on his hands with sharp swords. I am finally rid myself of that colorful ball. My lord, please allow me to set off. I am a general under your command, not your pet dog. The one who said those piteous words was a small skeleton dog whose limbs were fitted randomly. Looking at him covering his nose to look piteous, no one would expect that he is actually the fearsome head of the 7 deadly sins, wrath. Looking around me, the High-Tier undead were looking piteously at me. On their backs were a blue war flag. The picture of a castle within the hurricane is obviously one from a few centuries ago, making one feel nostalgic. You all even took out Mist's war flags, so why are you still making a show of asking me? Woo you, this is great, my bones are almost rusty. Long live your highness. Yes, your highness and not emperor. The reason why they used this honorary term to call me was never because I am Emperor Young I, but I was the final prince of the previous Mist country which was destroyed. They are the few remaining soldiers of the kingdom, those who aren't willing to pass on like this. Fools who are willing to walk to the end of time with me. My general, is our army prepared and ready to move off? Of course, your highness. Your army, no matter is it 376 years ago, or 250 years ago, or 130 years ago, when have we let you down? The remaining 24,602 of the fallen red hunting hounds have been sharpening their edges and grinding their teeth, awaiting the day for their deployment. We already can't wait for the moment we return to the battlefield. He is still the same pet dog who died with regrets. He gave the exact same answer that he gave me 2 months ago at the Undead theme park. But, this time, the feeling it gave was totally different. Looking from the blazing soul fire in the eyes of the undead, it seems that no matter how much failures we meet with, they are still determined to follow me until the end of the world. I took a deep breath as the rolling sword by my waist starts to heat up. It can't be that the blood of undead could boil as well. Fortunately, undead can't cry otherwise, it would really be shameful of me. This moment, my old horse, Yang I, walks to me with his sides facing me as he looks at me expectantly, as though anticipating the moment I ride on him again. Yes, their determination has never changed. Then, what am I waiting for? What am I hesitating for? What am I considering for? What am I fearing? Yes, my knights. You all have never let me down. Strike the war drums, blow the horn, rise Mist's war flags up high. My knights, charge with me. Noble rankings, Archduke, Grand Duke, Duke, Marquis, Count/Earl, Viscount, Baron. But anyway, for now, only the position of the Count, Marquis, Duke and Grand Duke are here, so it isn't sure whether the rest of the titles would be used. Sometimes I really hate this novel, so many names that I find it hard to translate. Truthfully, when I was reading through it, I just read through the names and ignore them. So, I've decided, for those that are easy to translate, or if I am able to Google them and get a result easily, I'll translate it. But for those which I seriously cannot find and the names doesn't make a huge impact on the story, I will just roughly translate, as long as the idea is there. Demon Lord, greater than in this case, the Lord means more of landlord rather than a title.